Welcome to another deadline stream ahead of Game Week 13 in FPL. I appreciate everyone who has decided to tune in today. I've put a poll out. If you want, vote in there. I also put kind of a similar poll in my YouTube channel, so I'll be going over those results as well. I'm going to be actually discussing my transfer plans because I have 2 free transfers, 0.7 million in the bank, and I haven't actually finalized my moves yet, but I am quite clear on what I want to do, and there's just one kind of alternative or one decision to make, because I think Chilwell to Alonso is quite a simple move, but then the other, do I go Townsend to Gallagher or do I go Foden to Diego Jota? Pep Guardiola didn't do us any favours today with his press conference, so I'm going to be trying to go for as many questions as possible, as I always do. So thank you very much to everyone who's already been putting them in, and unfortunately this poll is kind of covering some of the questions already. So NM0212 says, hi Dylan, my team is Ramsdale, Foster, Cancelo, Trent, James, Livramento, Duffy, Salah, Saka, Gallagher, Rafinha, Havertz, Antonio, Kane, Archer. 1 free transfer, 0.4 million in the bank. How would you line up and who would you bring in? I have a 3-5-2 right now. So in terms of who to bring in, I think your defence is pretty reasonable. Obviously, Duffy could be a concern later on down the line, but I think it's pretty much fine. You've got Cancelo, Trent and James. That's the important thing. You've got good goalkeepers. Your midfield is also looking pretty good. I think Havertz to Jota is a simple move, looking at that. And also Saka, maybe. You can move him to Cornet or to Bowen in a few game weeks' time, but I wouldn't get rid of Saka ahead of Newcastle. So I think Havertz to Jota is a simple move, and I would pretty much line up the exact way you've been doing now. Yeah, I think I'd just line up exactly how you're doing, but instead of Havertz, go with Diego Jota. Group PLM says, I sell Jota and Rafinha and I buy Reagan and Jota. Is it good or not? I think it's good. Obviously, I'm not a huge fan of Reagan. I think he is a buy and he's a good option. But obviously, I would rather go for Alonso and, of course, the kind of holy trinity of defence right now, Cancelo, Trent and Reece James. But I think Reagan is probably one of the better options around 5 million. Gallagher in a 4-5-1 or Jimenez in a 4-4-2, says Niraj. I think it's simple. For the next 2 game weeks, it's definitely Jimenez and I would love to have him. But long term, it has to be Gallagher for me. You look at Wolves' fixtures from Game Week 14 onwards, they're pretty poor. Alonso and Bernardo Silva for Chilwell and Foden. I think that looks pretty reasonable. Yeah, you don't have to get rid of Foden though, but of course, if you don't think he's going to start, then I think that's a reasonable switch. If you don't have Jota already, I would actually rather go with that instead. So yeah, hopefully the chat is now kind of more normal on my screen. Yeah, I think it's pretty much fine now for me. So, replace Son for Jota and Manquillo for Cancelo. Oh, that's a difficult one. I think over the next 3 fixtures, do you really want to get rid of Son? Not so much, but I think that upgrade from Manquillo to Cancelo is obviously very good. I think on the whole, you improve your squad, so I'd say yes, but just bear in mind, getting rid of Son now, I think this is when he's going to start hauling. Welcome, Michaela. Thank you very much for tuning in. Very much appreciated. Just a Fan says, play double Chelsea defence or play Rafinha. That is really difficult. I'd probably play Rafinha. Because Chilwell is injured, it makes it a bit easier for you. So you could just play Reece James, I'm assuming you have him, and Rafinha, and bench the other Chelsea defender, even if it is Marcus Alonso, which of course could backfire. But I wouldn't want to bench Rafinha. Who to play, Antonio or Tomiyasu or Duffy? I think Tomiyasu is the most likely to give you a return, but I'd still be leaning towards Antonio. It has to be between them two for me. I think Leeds could score, especially with Rodrigo and also Rafinha back. So I probably would either play Antonio or Tomiyasu, and I'd probably go for Antonio because of the upside. And if you already have Ramsdale, you don't need to play double Arsenal defence there. Melvin says, should I go for Reagan instead of Alonso? I'd rather go for Alonso. Obviously, is he going to be completely nailed? I've already kind of raised some concerns and counter arguments against him. That's not to say he isn't a bad option or that he is a really good option, but I would probably go for Alonso. I prefer Chelsea's defence, and I think in terms of the stats, I talked about this in yesterday's preview, I think Alonso is superior. Shivan says, should I double up on City's defence? Planning on bringing in Kyle Walker. I mean, if you look at the fixtures, it's probably the team to double up on in terms of the defence. So I think that's reasonable. I'd still rather go for Alonso over Walker because of that attacking threat. But of course, I think that's a good option. And Diaz is still a good choice, of course, despite the fact that after an international break, he tends to be bench. Don't buy Jota and Alonso, says Melvin. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a difficult one. It's either going to be Gallagher coming in for Townsend or it'll be Jota for Foden. Ideally, I'd want to have Foden and Jota rather than obviously just one of them. Would you rather double up on Chelsea defence with Alonso or Thiago Silva or get Gallagher in midfield? Can't afford both. That's a difficult one. It depends who you're getting rid of. For Gallagher, I'm assuming you're going to be getting rid of Chilwell to facilitate that Chelsea defender move. I would definitely prefer Alonso over Thiago Silva. Thiago Silva I'd only really consider in UCL Fantasy because of the ball recovery point system. In FPL, not really so much. I would rather go for Rudiger or Alonso. It's a tough one, really. Chelsea have some pretty difficult fixtures coming up, but they are fixture-proof. But it depends who you get rid of for Gallagher. If you're getting rid of like a Gray or a Townsend, I probably would get Gallagher in, but otherwise, I'd be tempted to say Alonso. Mohamed says, I need to bench 2 of these 5, Zaha, Foden, Bowen, Jesus, Trossard. What are your thoughts? That's really tough. Very, very tough indeed, actually. I probably would say Bowen. I'd bench him. And the other one, maybe between Zaha and Jesus, but I wouldn't bench Trossard against Leeds. I wouldn't bench Foden. I think if he starts, he could do very well. So that's what I would do. Uri says, hi mate, should I buy Lamdi and keep Antonio or take a hit to get Alonso and King? Oof. That's a tough one. I would rather get Alonso and King, to be fair, but then again, you probably would want Antonio around game week 16 or 18, so it's a really tough one. But I wouldn't take a hit to get King in right now. That's the thing. I talked about King and Dennis in yesterday's preview as well, and I said around game week 15-16, after the next 3 game weeks, that's when you want to get in on Watford assets. They're facing Leicester and City and Liverpool, something like that, in the next 3 game weeks or something like that. It's very difficult fixtures. Actually, it's Chelsea, so yeah, not for me. Thoughts on Bernardo Silva? I talked about him in yesterday's preview as well, and also in recent videos. I think he's a very good option in terms of stats, quite similar to Foden, but Foden has played fewer games. I would rather go for Foden, but if he is out, and to be honest, there is a big doubt about him, I would actually look to go for a Bernardo Silva. But still, Jota for me, around his price, is probably the best one. Who to play, Duffy or Bowen, asks Vivan. I would play Duffy in that case, but I'm not really too sure of either. Mane or Son? For this game week, I'd say Mane, but overall, over the next 3-4 game weeks, I'd have to say Son. Also pretty good fixtures. Why aren't you doing Chilwell to Alonso? I mean, if you look at the title of the video, and I am actually thinking of doing that. But yeah, I'm very much considering it. I'm not completely sold by Marcos Alonso, but I think he is a good option, and it's probably the safe way to go. Welcome, John. Good to see you here. Greetings from Florida. Very nice place. Hey Dylan, Reagan versus Alonso. I talked about this once again in yesterday's preview, actually. I literally put both of their stats side by side, and I think Alonso is the better one for me. Plays in a better defence as well. Thank you, Jad. Very much appreciated your kind words. Lamdi or Rafinha to start? Rafinha for me. I'd have to play Rafinha. Gallagher is a must. I'm even considering Benteke ahead of a fantastic run and unbeaten home start. Yeah, that's a really good point. And to be honest, yeah, that's how the poll is going at the moment. Most people saying I should go for Alonso and Jota in for Chilwell and Foden. I think the main reason is because he's an injury doubt, and of course Jota playing up front for arguably the best attacking team in the league is very appealing. But I think Gallagher long term would be very good. Having said that though, with African Cup of Nations coming into the mix, Jota could actually be a good option going into January as well. Thoughts on Bowen and Benteke as a replacement for Antonio and Gallagher? I would still rather have Gallagher and probably still Antonio. So obviously that duo is good, very good, Bowen and Benteke. I've talked about them in transfer tips videos. I think both of them are buys in the long term, but I would still rather have Gallagher and probably Antonio if he can get some form back. Foden to Jota for a hit or play Mbeumo? I'd play Mbeumo, mate. I think he could do very well against Everton. That's my opinion though. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of my gut feeling. Start which 2? Foden, Wilson, Antonio. I would start Foden, and then it's obviously a toss-up between Wilson and Antonio. I think both of them could score. Wilson, obviously one more yellow and he gets suspended, but just for this week, it's a tough one, isn't it? I think both of them could score, but at the same time they could easily blank. I'd probably say Wilson, but Antonio could do well against City. He's done it before. Anthony says, rate my team. Ramsdale, Foster, Trent, Cancelo, Reece, Alonso, Duffy, Salah, Bernardo, Jota, Brownhill, Mbeumo, Kane, Antonio, Armstrong. In the top 1,500 in the world. I can see why. That's a very good team. For this week specifically, I think that's a very strong team. The only kind of doubts really you'd have is Armstrong. Duffy isn't a bad option this week, but he's not great, if you know what I mean. But I think you're fine in the defence. Ramsdale, playing that back four of Trent, Cancelo, Reece and Alonso. You're ahead of the curve there. Salah, Bernardo, Jota, Mbeumo as well. I would start him this week. And then Antonio and probably Kane. That looks pretty good, to be honest. That's a good team. I think going forward, Armstrong is a sell. I talked about this in my transfer tips video. Also, yeah, I think that's pretty much fine. Mbumo is good this week, but long term, I would look to move him on to Gallagher potentially. Marcus says, hi mate, annoying that Jota rose yesterday, still thinking to get him maybe. Do you prefer Rafinha plus Mbumo to Jota and fodder, or Chilwell and Mbumo to Johnson and Jota as the way to get him both, or both -4? Tough one. That's really tough. I would be tempted by the Johnson and Jota move, but yeah, I think it still could pay off the hit, but that's what I probably would do. The other one isn't bad though, to be fair. Hi, would you bench Tony or Rafinha? I wouldn't bench either of them, to be honest. I think they have decent fixtures on paper, especially Tony. Everton are pretty poor defensively. That's tough. If I had to pick one, that's extremely tough. Maybe Rafinha, but I don't know. It doesn't really make sense in my head when I say it out loud, to be honest. I did greater Jota thoughts. That's a really good move, Lan. And if I had enough money, I would do the exact same. If I could do Townsend to Jota, that would definitely be at the top of my priority list. And apologies, by the way, if I haven't been able to read out any of your comments. And later on, you can put forward the question again, but just don't spam the chat. That's all I ask. Thank you very much to everyone who's been putting these questions. Very much appreciated. Buy Foden and get Gallagher, Smith, Bernardo, or Jota, or... right now, I'd have to say Jota looks the best option. Long term, it's definitely Gallagher for me. I think he is the best long-term option. But I'd say up until January, maybe Jota is looking like the best one. Rami. Group PLM. I think I answered this question already. But Foster, Trent, James, Reagan, Cancelo, Salah, Smith, Rowe, Mount, Gallagher, Jota, Tony on the bench, Antonio Livramento, Armstrong, and McCarthy. I think. Yeah, Armstrong is someone I'd probably look to sell. Also, who's the other one? Mount. Yeah, those two I'd look to sell, but the rest is fine, mate. And in terms of who to replace them with, I think Mount down to, let's say, for example, so you've already got Gallagher and Jota, maybe a Cornet. You've got Smith already. A Cornet or Jared Bowen around Gameweek 16 looks pretty good. And by the way, for Cornet, you could get him in right now, to be fair. And as for Armstrong, getting rid of him, I'd be looking at... That's a difficult one. If you have enough money, Jimenez is really good for the next 2 game weeks, but obviously long term, I'd be looking at Benteke perhaps. Havertz to who? Is Bernardo Silva a shout? Mickey, definitely Jota if you don't have him already. If you have Jota, then Bernardo Silva, and then if not, going for a Gallagher, one of those cheaper options I keep talking about, Cornet, and there's many more, to be fair. Thank you, Neo, for your kind words. Thank you very much. And by the way, to anyone, if you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe for new. It's very much appreciated. Don't worry, we're not wrapping up yet. We've only just started, but very much appreciate everyone who's been tuning in. And smash the like button, of course. It really helps out the channel. And here we are, back to the screens. If you want to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, it's Dylan_RCM. And the handles will be on your screen later on towards the end of the live stream. So very much appreciated. Tony or Antonio in attack? This week it has to be Tony for me, definitely. Tony, keep or sell? Will Tony ever rise in price again? He could rise in price. Still some decent fixtures for Brentford. Would I sell right now? Probably not. I think he could do well against Everton, to be honest. But if there was kind of a really good option, like let's say, for example, Jimenez, if he had good fixtures for the next 5 to 10 weeks, I'd be looking to bring him in, even if it requires a downgrade elsewhere. But there's not really a viable alternative, so that's why I'm just keeping Tony for now. Thought so as well. Thanks, Dylan, mate. Thank you, Marco. Very much appreciated. Are you considering Kane over Vardy? I'm not completely sold on Kane. Well, he did score against Mura yesterday. The thing is, though, I wouldn't want to get rid of Vardy now ahead of Watford. I think, obviously, Watford have been impressive recently, but am I going to sell him now? I've kept him this long. I think it just makes sense to hold him. So honestly, I haven't really seen enough from Kane and Son to really, be in a rush to do so. But at the same time, obviously Kane, I expect him to come good. I think he's going to do well over the next few fixtures. Same with Heung-min Son. But the same thing can be said for Vardy. And in terms of fixtures over the next 4, Leicester and Spurs are pretty identical. But of course, I am looking at Kane still. But then again, I've got Alonso to get in. The Chilwell news has changed things for me. I want to get Gallagher. I've been, looking at him for several weeks now. Still haven't got him in. Still have Townsend for some reason. And also Jota. So there's a few other kind of ways to go about it. Say Maximan versus Callum Wilson next week. I mean, at the moment, you have to say Sir Maximan looks like the better option because Callum Wilson is only 1 yellow card away from suspension. But both are really good options. And in terms of next week, let's actually look at the fixtures. to remind ourselves. So Newcastle play Norwich next week. I think that does fancy, both of them to be fair, and the wingers tend to do very well against Norwich, but I would fancy Callum Wilson to get quite a few chances there against Norwich, and that's the early kickoff, or should I say the first kickoff of game week 14. And yeah, these game weeks are coming thick and fast. That's on Tuesday, by the way. So that's going to be another deadline stream on Tuesday. There's probably going to be a reaction stream tomorrow. And in terms of the rest of the content, obviously, I'll ask you a lot for feedback in terms of what you want to see and when you want to see it. But transfer tips, obviously the team selection, and obviously the preview, going to have to find a way to, maybe combine different game weeks together and cover it that way, or if not, maybe just for now, maybe getting rid of the previews for now and just focusing on the other two. But let's wait and see, of course. But yeah, I think Callum Wilson and Saint-Maximin are good options, but I'd probably go with Saint-Maximin because of that yellow card and suspension risk, to be honest. I did Chilwell and Havertz to Jota and James for free. I think that looks very good, Josh, to be honest. I would have done the same thing. Force on Ranić United. I talked about this briefly in yesterday's preview, and obviously, a lot of people don't know about Ranić, and in terms of his managerial record, it's nothing spectacular, but he reminds me a bit of Marcelo Bielsa, where he's very influential. So with Bielsa, for example, he's very influential to Pochettino, Sampaoli, and other managers that were up and coming. And the same can be said for him with Thomas Tuchel and also Jurgen Klopp, and he is kind of the face of gegenpressing. It's going to be very interesting to see how United do, but I think their assets are looking very good from game week 16 onwards. Bruno Fernandes in particular, and Cristiano Ronaldo. Still not completely sold on the defence, but for example, if you remember 10 years ago, Schalke beat Inter Milan 7-3 across two legs with Ranić at the helm, and then they face Ferguson's Manchester United, and I think they got absolutely battered. They conceded 8 goals, I believe, over 2 legs, something ridiculous, maybe even more. But I think Ranić will do well there, and it's a very smart appointment, and then he's going to be transitioned into a kind of director role. I think he could do a pretty good job there at United. So very, very wise signing, I think. And of course, what's the first game against for under Ranić for United? It's against Arsenal. So I expect United to really be up for that game. Should I bench Sarr, Bissouma, Janssen or Hwang? Nabil, hopefully you're still here. Sarr is actually a doubt. I think he's ruled out for this week, so I think he's an easy bench. Otherwise, I'd start him and Hwang and Janssen. But yeah, you have to play. You have to bench Sarr, unfortunately. TMP, Parch. I've probably butchered that. Or was it Farrow? I don't know where I got Parch from. My apologies. Bro, should I take a -12 hit to bring in James, Trent, Jota and 5 million midfielder, or just bring in Allen and Trent this week and go for James later? I will not take a -12, mate. Obviously, long term it can pay off slightly, but in the end, I think you could just make more net points by not taking such excessive hits. Hits can be good, and it's not like you have to completely avoid them, but a -12 is way too much. So I just go for the -4 option in your situation, or try to have a free transfer. -6 from time to time can be decent, but trust me, a -12 is not something you want to do. Antonio to Benteke, I think that looks good, to be honest, looking at the fixtures, but if West Ham pick up a bit of form ahead of those fixtures around game week 18, you probably would want him back, but I think that's a good move. I would like Chalobah, but the issue with him is he isn't guaranteed to always play. I agree, Mickey, and to be honest, yeah, he reminds me a lot of Zuma. I talked about this before from last season, where he's pretty much up near the top in terms of highest scoring defenders, and in the end, they kind of just lose their spot. But obviously, Chalobah is going to get some game time over the Christmas period, but I'd rather have Rudiger, Alonso, and of course, Reece James. When would you have a differential captain? It depends, really. I think maybe potentially game week 14 when Salah plays Everton, but then again, that's not a bad fixture. But I think when Salah has a really tough fixture, and I have someone like Vardy, for example, I would then look to do so. At the moment, I'm sticking with Salah. And also, it just doesn't really make sense. Why go differential for the sake of it when Salah's playing Southampton at home? It's a very good fixture. Sal Imbumo says, Anthony, I probably wouldn't this week. I think he could do well against Everton, but of course, he's a very frustrating player. Long term, I definitely want to go for Gallagher. Thanks, just down myself. No problem, Nabil, and obviously, thank you for the question. Isaac says, thoughts on my team, please. Ramsdale, James, Cancelo, Alonso, Salah, Son, Gallagher, Mbumo, Kane, Dennis, Jimenez. I think that team looks good. Jimenez is fantastic for the next 2 fixtures. Ramsdale has a good fixture. James, Cancelo, Alonso, solid defence. Obviously, United could actually be quite tough. You'd expect Chelsea to win that, though. Your midfield is looking very good this week. Dennis, Facing Leicester, I mean, to be fair, Leicester, Johnny Evans is a concern. I think he had an issue in the warm-up of the Europa League game, so that actually is good news for Dennis. Also, let's see who takes penalties in Sar's absence, and to be fair, Sar shouldn't be on penalties anyway. He missed 2 of them against United, but you would suspect it would be Joshua King. Dennis could actually be alright this week, so that's a good team, Isaac. I'd be pretty happy with that team, heading into this week. Group PLM. I answered your question already about your team, and in terms of Tony or Mikel Antonio, I'd play Tony. Nabil says, should I get him in now or tomorrow? Are you on about Cancelo? If it's Cancelo, I would get him in now, to be honest. Let me know if, obviously, I've got it wrong there. Is Tony a keep for the distant future? Potentially. I wouldn't say he's definitely a keep because, once again, Tony and Mbeumo have been very disappointing, but there's not really a viable alternative at the moment. Maybe Benteke and King. So maybe in around 3 game weeks time when King has those good fixtures, I probably would be looking to do Tony to King and potentially even Benteke, but I'd rather cover Palace with Conor Gallagher. Yeah, I agree, Lan. There could be a price rise, potentially. Still worth it for a wing-back for over the fixture congestion, considering they have to bomb up and down the pitch almost 2 weeks in a row. There's going to be rotation, Savio, especially with Cancelo, potentially, Reece James, Alonso. You'd still expect some rotation. Azpilicueta can cover both at left wing-back and right wing-back, potentially. So they'd still play the vast majority of games, but there is going to be rotation. That's a good point you raised, though. Who should I bring in for Tony, aside Benteke? I'd say King in 3 game weeks time, but right now, keep Tony. He's got a good fixture against Everton. Ashraf says, I want to replace Son with Jota, Manquillo for Cancelo, but I will take a -4 hit. I wouldn't take a hit in that case. Obviously, Cancelo is the kind of big drawing point there, but Son, getting rid of him, I mean, Ashraf, the problem is, Son, it's not just for this game week, he could blank against Burnley, but the fixtures afterwards are just so good, but long term, I think the hit could be worth it, so I'd go for it, but just bear in mind, Son could come back to bite you. Marcus says, in that case, would you prefer Chilwell and Mbeumo to Jota and Johnson, or Alonso plus Smith Rowe? Again, both for a hit. I'd still say Jota and Johnson. Actually, that's a tough one, actually. If it was Gallagher instead of Smith Rowe, I'd definitely go for that duo. Honestly, I probably would go for Alonso and Smith Rowe in that case, Marco, but I think Jota's obviously looking very good. Would you perhaps look at Son to Sancho if United start doing a lot better? Yeah, potentially. I talked about Sancho. He looked very impressive in the Champions League and also against Watford, had a decent cameo. I still would rather keep Son, but of course, if he continues to blank and Spurs are still looking very poor, and with United's fixtures, that could be the way to go. But in terms of the United midfield I'm looking at, it's definitely Bruno Fernandes. Let's see. Best budget forward right now, in terms of looking at the fixtures overall, it has to be Benteke. But in 3 game weeks time, I'd be leaning towards Joshua King, perhaps, maybe even Emmanuel Dennis, but especially King. He could be on penalties, and his stats are very impressive for someone of his price. Worth taking a -4 hit to from Antonio to Tony. Oof, tough one, isn't it? I probably wouldn't. But of course, Tony has a good fixture this week, but I probably wouldn't take a hit. If it was for free, I would probably consider it, to be honest. Corey says, I have a free transfer and 0.5 million remaining. What would you do? Cancelo, Trent, Rudiger, James, Amati, Brownhill, Foden, Salah, Smith Rowe, Gallagher, Tony, to Ronaldo, Huang, Foster and Sanchez. I think Ronaldo maybe to Kane could be very good, if not Vardy. That's what I probably would do. I know Ronaldo could be very appealing from now on under Ranić. Yeah, other than that, your team looks fine for now. Obviously, if you are concerned about Foden, and I am, to be fair, you could do Foden to Jota. So one of those 2 moves I would do. Obviously not both, although that is also on the cards. Foysal says, hi there, would you drop Foden for Silva? I have Jota already. The thing is, if Foden was fully fit and, it looked like he was going to be fine, then I would say, you know what, just keep Foden. I would actually prefer him over Silva, but because he has a doubt, I would consider it. And to be honest, if you are not sure about Foden and you have a feeling he's going to miss out, I just move him on to Bernardo Silva. Antonio replacements around 6 million. I already talked about this before, Tobias. It has to be Benteke or King in 3 game weeks time. I wouldn't really look at anyone else at the moment. Armstrong, I mentioned him, 3 or 4 game weeks ago, but right now I think would be the time to get off him and not buy him in, to be honest. Mickey says, not sure to do Chilwell to James or Alonso, or he'd have Rudiger and also have it to either Jota or Bernardo Silva. I think it's very simple, Mickey, in my opinion. It's Chilwell to James, definitely. I would rather have James than Alonso, and I would rather have Jota over Bernardo Silva, despite the fact that Jota's stats actually haven't been that impressive over the last 3 or 4 game weeks, but I'd rather have Jota over Bernardo. And you also have Townsend, so need to eventually get rid of him. Yeah, I don't know if you have Gallagher already, but that's another transfer you can make. If you don't have Gallagher, I think Townsend to Gallagher is a simple move, and that's something I want to do, but I just haven't been able to do so in recent weeks. I plan to get Antonio first before... have eyes on Antonio first before getting him in, but the concern now is I'm worried about the price drop of Chilwell. Thoughts? Yeah, that is a concern, but if you're not going to be priced out, which to be honest you shouldn't, Chilwell is more expensive, then I wouldn't really think about it too much. Price rises and price falls... it's not really that big of an issue, but if you want Alonso in now and you can get it with a free transfer, then do it. But otherwise, you don't have to. If your bench is weak, Gilmore, Basuma, would you do a -4 for Alonso? Oof, that's tough, Sherry. If Ollie was still in charge, I would say definitely. Now I'm a bit more hesitant, but I'd probably say take the hit. I think it will pay off in the long term. Ragaf says Antonio to say Maximan. I think that could be decent, but honestly, in terms of budget forwards right now, I would just look for Benteke or King, and King more so in 3 game weeks time. Is Alonso sure to play? Not completely sure, but I think he will play, mate. Thank you very much to everyone who's still tuning in. Over 100 people watching. Let me try get through some questions that are kind of further up in terms of the chat and try to get through all of them, or as many as possible. Is the double up on Palace worth it? It is worth it, but I'd just rather go with one. And if, of course, they continue to do very well, Benteke and Gallagher would be my attackers of choice. Should I hold Semedo and Jimenez for Norwich and remove next week 2 free transfers for Alonso and Benteke? Yeah, Colin, I would. I'd probably keep them, especially Jimenez. Do not get rid of Jimenez ahead of Norwich. Definitely not. Musa says, thoughts on my team: Ramsdale, Trent, Alonso, James, Salah, Smith, Gallagher, Jota, Vardy, Kane, Tony. Fantastic team, mate. And this week, you don't have to do anything. That's a fantastic team. Start 1, Mount, Mbeumo and Cody. Has to be Mbeumo for me, DJ. I want Captain Trent, but Salah is so... I mean, I think Trent could actually be a very good captaincy shout, but I'm going with Salah. Then again, though, Trent did outscore him last week, and he could do it again. Hey, what's up, my dude? Thank you, Lamoyo. Very nice name. What are we doing with Chilwell and Foden? Is Alonso worth it for a -4 and Jota for a -8? Sixstream again. Greetings from Cyprus. Big up, Cyprus. Thank you very much for tuning in. In terms of what do I think of those two players, I think Chilwell is, of course, an easy sell. He's going to be out for at least the rest of the year, and we're going to see the kind of scan results in 3 or 4 weeks' time, perhaps. And he could be out for multiple months. So, yeah, he could be out for the rest of the season. He's a definite sell. If you don't have Trent, James, or Cancelo already, get one of them in to replace Chilwell. Easy for me. And then if you have all 3 of them already and you want to maintain going big at the back like I do, I think a switch to Alonso or Rudiger is definitely an easy decision. As for Foden, I would have actually wanted to keep him, and I still do. But if he is a big doubt for the weekend, which it looks like he is, I probably would be looking to sell. But otherwise, I wouldn't mind holding Foden. And what I would want to do, really, is add Jota to my team and not replace Foden with Jota. Thank you very much for your question. Thanks for the advice. Thanks for the advice, mate, says Ashraf. Thank you very much. Rafinha or Jota? For me, Jota, definitely. I think up until January, he is the better option. Rafinha has some tough fixtures coming up. I have 804 overall points. That's very good, Lan. And yeah, 1 more point than I do. So that's going to be very tight between us. I already done Chilwell to James, so Foden to Silva would be a -4. It's a tough one, yeah. I'm not really too keen with a -4 hit, but then again, if Foden is out, that hit could actually be worth it, but I'm not too sure. It's a tough one, really. If it's for a free transfer, then I'd be a bit more inclined to do so. With a hit, it kind of puts more doubts into my mind. Small sample size, but which new manager looks most promising to you? Very good question. I think Steven Gerrard at Villa, unless I'm forgetting about somebody, but I think him. And also Ranić, up until the end of the season, I think he can get United into the top 4, which is looking a bit distant at the moment, but I think he could definitely give them the push they need. Of course, we haven't seen them yet, so from those we've seen, has to be Steven Gerrard, I think, but of course, just 1 game week, very difficult to judge. Please mention Gundogan as a differential. Then again, though, if a lot of people do mention him, he's not going to become a differential as such. But I've actually talked about him in recent weeks. He's still a good option, and he's been hitting the post, getting into some good positions. I think against PSG, actually, he had a very good chance. But yeah, I still would rather go for Foden or Bernardo Silva. Having said that, though, Gundogan is still a decent option. Basuma, Janssen, or Benrahma, who should I start? I can only start one. Has to be Janssen for me, Nabil. I'd probably go for him. Start Hwang or Mbeumo. Wouldn't want to bench either of them, mate, but I probably would start Hwang, but I'm not too sure about that one. Rafinha, Smith Rowe, Jimenez, Tony. Which free to play? Definitely Smith Rowe, Jimenez, and it's between Tony and Rafinha there, and maybe Tony, but I'm not sure about that one. Is it a good idea to have both Gallagher and Benteke? I think it's a decent one. I talked about this earlier in the stream. I would rather just have one, and Gallagher is my preference, but having both is a nice differential, I think. Should have benched James for this week. It's Anthony Taylor. Oh yeah, he did send him off, didn't he, against Liverpool? And a lot of Chelsea fans do hate Anthony Taylor, even from back in the FA Cup finals actually for Arsenal, 2017 and 2020. Let's see. I'll try to whiz through some of these. So hopefully you're still in the chat. Try to be patient. I'm doing my best to get through them. Is it worth to take a -4 hit with 2 free transfers to do Foden to Jota, Chilwell to Alonzo, and Boomer to Gallagher? I think it is, Jack, but in your situation, I would actually just do 2 free transfers and hold off on the Mbuma to Gallagher move this week and maybe do it next week, Jack. I took out Foden for Jota. Like the way you spelled Jota. Chilwell to Alonzo for a -4. Yeah, that looks pretty reasonable, to be fair, and could be very good. Alonso is also so attacking when he plays, so would be good to have him. Also on Bernardo in 15-16. Yeah, I agree. And I showed my transfer plans in my updated team selection video. Bernardo Silva was in my midfield alongside Jota, Gallagher and Salah. And in my defence, I had Alonso in there. And if not, it would have been Kane up front and Johnson in my defence. So I agree. Danny G says, is this team good? Ramsdale, Trent, Rudiger, James, Cancelo, Salah, Jota, Canos, Gallagher, Jimenez, Kane. It's a good team. I'm not too sure about Canos, if I'm being completely honest, but the rest looks very good, to be honest. I like Jimenez once again. Would you take a -4 for Vardy to Kane? Definitely not, Jake. Not for me. No. You should definitely do the Alonso plus Jota option. Thank you very much for the suggestion, the fantasy football lad. And yeah, in terms of the votes, that is getting the most votes on here and also on my main channel, on the community tab. Alonso plus Jota, 52% of the votes. The thing is, though, I've wanted to get rid of Townsend for weeks now. And I do like the kind of approach of getting rid of your weaknesses first. And for me, Townsend is a huge weakness, but I can always do that move next week. The problem with making these 2 free transfers now and also getting Gallagher next week is the fact that I'm kind of blocked off from getting these Spurs assets. Then again, though, have they shown that much? Not really, but I think the goals will come. And they have shown slight, I know very slight, but still they've shown signs of improvement. So, of course, I'm a bit worried, going into the next few games without these options. And I still want that placeholder to maybe eventually do Vardy to Cristiano Ronaldo. So let's wait and see. I have Foden and Antonio first bench. I have Jota and don't want Bernardo Silva. Should I sell Foden or Antonio? Oh, you don't want Bernardo Silva? Okay. Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, Foden is the injured out here. Antonio is fit to play. He got full rest during the week. Thing is, though, looking at the fixtures, I'd rather keep Foden. Of course, that could change in Game Week 18. That's when I would probably rather have Antonio. But right now, I'd rather have Foden. So it's a tough one. But obviously, under the assumption that Foden is fine and at most only misses 1 game week, I'd rather keep him over Antonio. Ninja says, start free. Mbeumo, Rico, Henry, Bowen. Start free. I'm guessing start 1 of those 3. Has to be Mbeumo for me. Yeah, Dylan, I think it's time you get rid of Townsend, and you've had him for too many weeks now. Yeah, I got him on my wild card, and it was a big mistake, of course. I thought he could still get the occasional haul with Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin out. Just hasn't really turned out right. Thoughts on Maddison? I think he's a streaky player. Of course, he did very well during the Europa League, and he could be someone who pops up. I think last year, around this period, December to January, he was actually pretty good, so he could be a nice differential, but I still would rather have Bernardo Silva, Foden, Jota, Rafinha, at least for the next 3 game weeks, and many more that I keep talking about. Take Rudiger out for Alonso. If it's for free Mustafa, then yes, but there's nothing wrong with keeping Rudiger. So, bro, to avoid a -12, whom to bring in? James and Jota or Allen and Trent this week for a -4? James and Jota for sure. Definitely, Pharaoh. Is Van Dijk and Foden to Trent and Jota good for a -4? I think so, mate. I will do that. Remove Foden. We'll lose 0.2 million on him. Can get one of Bernardo Gundogan. If yes, which one? Says Mustafa. I would go for Bernardo if you decide to sell him. And if you don't have him already, I think Jota is definitely the one I'd go for over Bernardo and Gundogan. But if you're looking for a City midfielder, definitely Bernardo for me. But Gundogan, he could be good as well. Thank you for all the help, Dylan. Hope you're feeling much better now. Thank you, Mickey. And yeah, I'm still, I don't know, maybe I still got kind of a hangover, you could say. An ill hangover. That's not really a word, is it? But yeah, still much better than before. Instead of spending 12 million on Ronaldo or Kane, Should I spend on Mane? Well, I talked about this actually once again in my preview. Hate to keep plugging it, but I think Mane right now is the second best premium player. The problem is AFCON is coming up, so bear that in mind. So he could miss a lot of games around January. And another thing to consider is that you're not going to be captaining him. Then again, we're always captaining Salah, to be fair. But I think you can just cover more teams by having a Vardy or a Ronaldo or a Kane, or if not a Son or Bruno. But of course, right now, yes, I think that is worth it, that double up. But why not go for Jota instead? It saves you 4 million and you can have a premium defence and have a solid team overall. So I personally would probably go for Jota instead. So Gallagher issue doesn't stand anymore. Eze could play in. No, it still stands, mate. And the thing is with Gallagher, I never said he's a bad option suddenly, but I think he's he's not as good of an asset now as he was prior to that news. And not just the Eze news, but also Milivojevic coming into the side because he takes set pieces from him. So it's still an issue, but I still think he's a fantastic option and probably the best around his price. But I think the gap between him and a Smith Rowe or Cornet is significantly reduced because of those two news that we talked about last week. Do you like Hwang and Joshua King? Thank you for nearly sending me there. I think Hwang is a good option for the next two, and King is a good option in 3 game weeks time. Would you do a -4 to get Smith Rowe and Mbumo? Says Mohammed. It depends who you're getting rid of there. But I wouldn't be bringing Mbumo in right now, but I wouldn't sell him this week. Would you captain Vardy? I am tempted, Azza, but I don't think I'm going to be going there. Is Vardy worth a -4 hit? Who are you getting rid of there, Uros? But I think he could be. Over the next 4 game weeks, if you stick to him, over the next 4, I think he could be fantastic. Is Havertz going to play? If not, I'm planning to transfer out Chilwell and Havertz for James and Gallagher for a -4. Says Maxim, good question. I'm not completely sure about Havertz if he's going to play or not. But it does look like there is a chance he's going to miss out. And honestly, even if he is fit, I would just get rid of him. And yeah, getting James and Gallagher for a -4, I think it makes complete sense in your situation. So I would do that. With Man City not having a striker and Liverpool losing Salah and Mane in January, can you see past Chelsea winning the title? I think even back, look, I always said those are the 3 teams, challenging for the title, and it's kind of obvious, although some people did expect United to win. When they beat Arsenal, I think it was Game Week 2 or something like that, I just thought, you know what, there's something in me that thinks Chelsea are going to win the league, and obviously it's too early to say, and there is a chance that Chelsea could struggle, but they've had injuries, across the season, Reece James suspension as well, and they've just found a way to win, and defensively, they're the best or second best in the league. Their midfield is very solid and they're just such a unit and they score goals from all sorts of positions. Even their defenders are scoring like crazy. So at the moment, I think Chelsea will win the league. And I said this back in Game Week 2. But there have been instances where I thought, you know what, Liverpool and City have a very good chance. And they still do. But I think Chelsea have the squad depth like City. Liverpool have the starting 11, but not so much the squad depth. And especially with AFCON coming into the mix, that could really deplete Liverpool. What I would say, though, in Liverpool's favour is that the fixtures aren't that bad during the African Cup of Nations period. Already used the free transfer, have Foden starting and Bowen first sub. Please stop me from taking unnecessary hit, getting trigger happy. But sometimes, it is kind of fun making transfers and taking hits, but I'm not really helping you there, am I? Yeah, you've got Foden starting and Bowen first sub. To be honest, you don't have to, mate. Bowen's a quality player. He can do well against City, and also Foden, if he starts, he could be in for a nice return for you. But of course, that's a big if. I probably would just keep it, Robin, and not take the hit. Should I replace Chilwell with James for a -4 hit? To be honest, long term it pays off, so yes. But if you can help it and you have a good team regardless, you don't have to take the hit this week, and you can get James in next week, but it's a good hit. Should I take a hit to get Cancelo or James for Thiago Silva? Yes, I think it's worth the hit, and I don't know who to pick between those two, honestly. I probably would say Cancelo because of the fixtures, but James is an absolute tank at the moment. They're both great, and if you can get both of them off Mane, I would go for both of them, and I probably butchered your name. Apologies if I did. Let's try get... Are we kind of... We're still far behind, aren't we? Let's see. Let me try get through these questions. So, let's see. Alonso won't necessarily start getting hauls. Should we get Chilwell to Rudiger instead if I already have Trent, Cancelo and James? Well, that's the thing, Rude. You don't have to get Alonso. You can get Rudiger. I think both of them are viable options. Most people will be going for Alonso. I think he just has that attacking threat and he has less competition in that left wing back spot than Rudiger, who has Chalobah, Aspilicueta, Christensen, and many more, to be fair. So it's a tough one, to be fair, but I'd still go for Alonso, but I agree. Rudiger is still a good option and can get some bonus points. Coop Dog says, is Alonso really worth it? Bearing in mind Aspie can play in both fullback positions and Chilwell may be back sooner than we expect. He might not be a lasting asset, otherwise he is. Yeah, I agree. The thing is with Chilwell though, he's going to be out for at least a month. Well, when I say a month, out for the rest of the year. So up until mid-January, that's a very long time. You're missing a lot of game weeks there, so you have to sell him. And I think that will be enough time for Alonso to play the vast majority of those minutes. And also with Alonso, he has that attacking threat more so than the other defenders you mentioned. You can go for a Rudiger or someone else, maybe downgrade to a Reagan or to one of those cheaper options. So that is on the cards as well. And I agree with Azpilicueta, but then again, Azpilicueta tended to play as a left back rather than a left wing back, and that was with previous managers, and a lot has changed. He was much younger back then, and he tended to play as the fullback. Nowadays, he plays a lot as one of the back three, as a centre-back. So, of course, I agree with you, and it's not like Alonso is just a complete no-brainer, but I still think he's a good option. Dylan, are you ever 100% well because you always seem to be a bit ill? No, yeah, I am. Pretty much, I never get ill, mate. That's the thing. I never get ill, but recently, for some reason, I got like 2 illnesses in the space of a month or something, so I'm not too sure why, but I'm fine now, pretty much. Just the effects from a few weeks ago or a week ago, but yeah, don't worry, mate. I got Jota for Foden yesterday and went Aspie for Lamdi early on in the week as a differential. Got 2.1 million in the bank and could get Kane for Vardy next week. Yeah, I think, Jack, that's the right thing to do. Don't get rid of Vardy for Kane this week and maybe do it next week. Play one of Mbumo, Antonio White, says Luke Macaulay. I would play Mbumo, actually. Patricia says team Chilwell, James, Arnold, Cancelo, Salah, Mount, Gallagher, Jimenez, Tony, Antonio, Bench, McCarthy, Livramento, Sarr, Townsend. Already done a -4. Should I do a -8? I probably would just keep things as they are. In terms of what you should do with the team in the future, hopefully you're still here. Townsend, get rid of him. You've already got Gallagher. Mount is another one, get rid of him. And also, of course, Chilwell. So I think Chilwell either to Alonso or to a cheaper defender like Reagan or one of the options we discussed like Lamdi, etc. I would do that. And in terms of Mount, I think Mount to Jota, easy move if you have enough money. And the last one, Townsend, I would move him on to either Smith Rowe or Maxwell Cornet. And if not, you can maybe hold off a little bit and around game week 16-18, get Jarrod Bowen. And I think your team is in very good shape. If you have enough money for those 3 moves, I think you're in a very good position. Singh says, planning to go for a midfield 4 of Salah, Jota, Foden, Gallagher with one Chelsea fullback, probably Alonso. Thoughts? I would rather have Reece James than Alonso, but I'm guessing you can't afford it. But that would kind of be my opinion on it. I would rather have Reece James than Alonso, but I like that midfield a lot. Who's the best budget forward if I already have Gallagher? Still Benteke right now for me, but in 3 game weeks time, definitely King. Based on the stats, looking at how he's playing under Ranieri, he could be on penalties now, regardless of Sarr being on the pitch or not. So I would say King or Benteke. Did I -8? Gray to Gilmore, Antonio to Benteke, Duffy to Trent. Thoughts? I think that looks good, to be fair. On the whole, Duffy to Trent is a massive upgrade. Bench Benrahma and play Janssen. I would do that, Nabil. Start Tony or Hwang? Tough one. Based on the fixture, you have to say Hwang, but then again, he's been playing far too much on the left wing. And Tony is going to be in a central position and getting a lot of chances against Everton. So maybe I would actually say Tony, but I think earlier on I actually said Hwang. It's a 50-50. I probably would say Tony, but Hwang is a good option. I wouldn't want to bench him. -4 for Tony to Hwang for next 2 fixtures. I wouldn't do that. The only -4 I would take in your situation is Tony to Jimenez. Tony can do very well against Everton. Foden will play or not? I wish I could tell you that. I think, based on what Pep said, I think there's a chance that he's not going to play. Then again, though, we had similar vibes last week and he actually started, but it wasn't the right decision. He should have been rested for that and he would have been probably fine ahead of game week 13. But I think he won't play. Since you want to have Foden and Jota, you need to play 3-4-3. Then no need to have Alonso and you can bring Jota for Townsend and any other defender for Chile. I actually talked about this, Mohammed, in my team selection video, my updated version. And I was talking about downgrading Chilwell to a Johnson or someone really cheap. And that would give me enough money to, exactly how you said, maybe get Harry Kane up front and also get Jota and Bernardo Silva perhaps in the midfield. So that's a really good option. Also Gallagher. So yeah, that's actually something I'm thinking about as well. What are your thoughts on Foden? Do you think he'll start? I don't think he'll start, Aranya. Of course, I could be wrong. Last week, I'm not sure exactly what I said, but I had a feeling he could actually play. This week, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. Time for Minamino during AFCON. Yeah, that's a good point. I think he could be decent. Also Origi. And of course, Jota's the main guy. I think he could be very good. Need to have 1 or 2 rotation players in your team for the upcoming game week. Yeah, I'm looking to improve my squad depth, and that's why I'm really, very, very much settled on Townsend up to Gallagher. But let's wait and see. Hi Dylan, are you risking starting Foden? I might get rid of him, Nick, to Jota, but if not, I might actually just find a way to have Foden, keep him, even if he misses out this week, and also add Jota to the mix. Benteke or Gallagher? Gallagher for me, but I do like Benteke, and his stats are very good. He's had 8 big chances this season. Gallagher or Zaha? Definitely Gallagher for me, Maxim. Foden will not play this game week, that's in the stream, says Matthew. That's my opinion as well. We could be wrong, but I wouldn't be too surprised. Niramia says, have Rudiger, Trent, Cancelo, Marcel, Livramento, and Boomer, Havertz, Rafinha, Salah, Sissoko. 0.7 million in the bank, 2 free transfers. Do Marcel to Alonso, Havertz to Gallagher or Jota if Jota no CR7. Yeah, I can see why you've been thinking about this a lot. I was literally going to recommend the exact same transfers. I think Havertz to Jota looks good though up until January, so I would do that instead. Despite the fact that it could block you from Ronaldo, and also with Ronaldo, you'd probably want him around game week 16 if anything, and you have more than enough time to prepare 2 free transfers to then maybe reverse that decision and get Ronaldo back in. So I would get Jota, but there's nothing wrong with getting Gallagher in, and Marcel to Alonso looks good. Another kind of thing you could do is instead of getting Alonso, you can maybe downgrade Marcel, and that will give you enough money also to get Ronaldo as well, but obviously that might not be entirely possible. Welcome, Genius Gamer. Are you considering Ronaldo in the next few weeks? Yes. I talked about this in the Man United section of my preview yesterday, but not right now. Right now I'm thinking about maybe Alonso or another defender, perhaps maybe a cheaper one to replace Ben Chilwell. Gallagher in for Townsend, also Jota coming in, and also perhaps up front, that's when Kane or Ronaldo could come in, but that's kind of not at the forefront of my plans at the moment. Who's the differential captain this week? Has to be Vardy for me, Jad. Vardy for me is the differential captain. I think he could do very well against Watford. Bench Benrahma or Janssen? I answered this already, Nabil, and I said bench Benrahma and start Janssen. I think Alonso next week is better. We should see how he performs against Man United. I agree. I was actually considering maybe getting rid of or getting in Alonso next week, and this week making other transfers like Gallagher coming in for Townsend. And to be honest, that's something I might do. Getting Gallagher in for Townsend and Jota in for Foden. Let's wait and see though. Buy and play Alonso or play Ben White and have 2 free transfers next week. I'd probably play Ben White, Vegard. A bench Mbeumo or Alonso or Rafinha. Oh, that's ridiculously tough. That is really tough. Probably bench either Mbeumo or Alonso. That's really tough, to be honest. If you have James, I'd bench Alonso. Otherwise, if that's your only Chelsea cover, then I'd bench Mbeumo. Ronaldo, Bowen, Son, Kane, best 2 options. Right now, not Bowen, but I think long term, from game week 18 onwards, Bowen is definitely someone I'd say is the best option. And then it's either Harry Kane or Ronaldo. But of course, Son is always a good option. It's kind of difficult to leave him out. Alba, Vardy, Ronaldo, Kane. Which one of these for the next 10 game weeks? Ronaldo. Looking at the next 10 game weeks, it has to be Ronaldo or Kane. Answer this already, Kazmi. No need to spam the chat. Thanks, Dylan. Always great advice. Nice to pop up in your stream. I got to go now. Thank you, Coop Dog. Good to see you here. Get rid of Livramento soon. He's always a bench fodder option for you anyway, but if you have a spare transfer, I think you can move him on to Lamdi. Best defensive option for 4.8 million. Thanks for the live stream. Thank you very much. Let me just moderate the chat for a second. I think Lamdi. He'd be the one I'm looking at. So yeah, I'd probably say Lamdi or someone else like that. Really want to start Mbeumo this week instead of Hwang. Headache. Yeah, I'd probably start Mbeumo. I mean, Tony, I'd definitely probably start over Hwang, although that's 50-50. This one I'm less sure of, but I probably would do the same, Assad, and start Mbeumo. Play one of Alonso, Mbeumo, or Wilson. Probably Alonso, if not Mbeumo, VG. Bench one, Mbeumo or Mount. I'd bench Mount, to be honest. That could obviously backfire. If Mount starts, he could do alright against United. Did Antonio play AFCON? No, he doesn't play AFCON. Jamaica is CONCACAF, so that's Central America. But yeah, Antonio's completely fine. Nothing to worry about there. If you haven't played your wildcard yet, any idea when you would want to play it? Probably game week 15 or 16, Maelstrom. Probably around game week 16 is when I'd play it. What do you think of Foden and Broca to Benteke and either Gundogan or Silva for a -4? I like it, and I would get Bernardo Silva instead of Gundogan, Nick. Which one? Laporte to Alonso, Bowen to Smith Rowe, Tony to Benteke, save transfer. Really tough, mate. I'd probably say Laporte to Alonso. I like Bowen. I wouldn't get rid of Bowen, by the way. I'd keep Bowen long term. Obviously, keep him for these tough fixtures, and then he's got fantastic games coming up. Tony to Benteke. It's not bad, but I probably would keep Tony. And yeah, do Laporte to Alonso. Chalobah or Alonso? Definitely Alonso for me. Chalobah's probably a bit less nailed, actually. Broca, sell or permanent bench? It depends though what you're going to do with that money. If you can upgrade him to a King or an Emmanuel Dennis, then I would probably sell him. But otherwise, you don't have to. If not, maybe downgrade him to a 4.5 million and then upgrade the rest of your squad. But make sure you have kind of 2 playing options on your bench heading into this Christmas period if possible. Thoughts on Duffy plus Foden to Alonso and Son? I like it a lot, mate. I probably would do that, Aaron. Yeah, the only problem there is that you kind of block a move for a premium striker. But if you're happy with that, I think that's good. Top differential for the winter run, and will you be picking them? Differential. That's tough. That's a really tough question, mate. I think Benteke is a nice differential. I'm not too sure about his ownership right now. Let me actually check. And by the way, this is what I'm thinking of doing. Alonso coming in for Chilwell, and then either Foden to Jota or Townsend to Gallagher. And if not, I could actually hold off on that Chilwell to Alonso move and do the other 2 transfers I described earlier. Let me actually check the ownerships so I can give you a nice differential. But yeah, I'm not too sure about that, to be honest. It's I need to actually see the ownership figures. Yeah, Benteke, wow. I actually thought more people would have him. I think Benteke could be a nice differential. And let's actually sort this out by team selected by. So let's actually check this. So let's go to forwards. I think in defence it probably has to be Alonso. He's a relative differential in the grand scheme of things. He'll probably become, not so much of a differential in the weeks to come. But yeah, I'd probably look at him. In terms of strikers, I think Benteke. Timo Pukki could be decent, but I probably would just recommend Benteke. I think King, definitely King, and get 3 game weeks time. Look at the fixtures: Brentford, Burnley, Palace. Not too bad, to be fair, and even long term up until game week 23, some pretty tasty fixtures. So I'd say King or Benteke up front. Maybe an Ings or Watkins. Yeah, Ings is 10% ownership. I'd look at Watkins. Once again, though, probably around game week 17. But once again, you asked for the Christmas period. I think game week 17 to 21, Watkins looks pretty decent. So those are the 3 strikers I'd recommend. In terms of midfielders, this is where maybe it gets a bit trickier. Trying to look at people under 10% ownership if possible. Yes, it's not really most of the best options really. You're kind of highly owned. I'd say Cornet. I'm guessing he's not very highly owned, and I'm not too surprised by that. The kind of Burnley preconception we have in our brains. But yeah, Cornet. Harvey Barnes could be decent over the next 4. Not so much after that, I think. But yeah, I think Cornet definitely in the midfield. Sancho could be a very interesting differential, but once again, is he someone I'd definitely go to? Probably not. But yeah, those 2 I'd recommend in midfield. And in defence, once again, yeah, Marcos Alonso. And if we're looking for another differential, if we're trying to find one, Ben Johnson, would I really go for him as a differential pick here? Probably not. I think cash around game week 17 could be pretty decent. And otherwise, that's pretty much fine, I think. Yeah, we've given plenty of differentials here. I'd probably go for those 2. Maybe even Lowton once again, but I wouldn't probably back a Burnley defender there. But yeah, those are some differentials for you. Let me know. Would I go for any of them? Probably Cornet is someone I'd consider. But then again, there's so many other options elsewhere that maybe I wouldn't go there in the end. Will Rafinha be replaced by Jota for a -4 worth? I would just keep Rafinha for the next 3 game weeks. After that, that's when I'd look to sell him, maybe even for a hit. Who should I start, Antonio or Gelhardt? I'd start Antonio. I probably would start him, yeah. But of course, Gelhardt could be decent, up until Bamford comes back. Who should I bench between Alonso and Silva and Gallagher? That's tough. Probably, that's really tough. Gallagher as well. Maybe Alonso, really? Not too sure about that one, mate. Maybe Alonso, but I'm not too sure. What do you think of Hudson-Odoi? He looks good and knows he needs to up his stats to get into the England squad. He could be a nice differential, but once again, he's the kind of player who, in a kind of low-scoring game week, he could be one of the highest scoring ones. So if you have him, you do very well. But other than that, I would kind of avoid Chelsea midfielders for now. especially with Lukaku coming back and Timo Werner, so probably not for me. Phil Foden won't play. I agree. Obviously, we'll wait and see. And Big Bazza asked any updates on Foden injury. Well, Pep Guardiola talked about him today. He said he's doing individual training, but he's much better. He said the exact same last week. I don't know, though. Personally, I think he's not going to start. And if he does, I don't see him playing the full 90 or close to that. I could be wrong. Hopefully I am, especially if I do end up keeping him, but it's not looking too promising. Would you take a hit to get Jota in for Rafinha? I wouldn't take a hit. I think Rafinha could do very well over the next 3. Need to sell De Gea or Edison to afford James. Which goalkeeper should I get? You've got De Gea and Edison. I mean, I wouldn't want either of them, to be honest. Yeah, I'd sell De Gea, I guess. But obviously Edison, you could just cover him with Cancelo, who's a similar price and just gets you those attacking returns. Mount and Chilwell out for Jota and Alonso for a -4. Yeah, I think that's good. I would do that, FPL guide. Hey Dylan, I'm also thinking to sell Foden for Jota. I might do it now because of the price rise. I mean, Jota already rose in price. The only problem there is if Foden goes down, which could happen. But yeah, I mean, not much should happen between now and the deadline. So if you're set on it, just do it now. -4 Jota to Foden. Ivan Boomer on my bench. I'm guessing, yeah, you're getting Jota in for Foden. Easy wheezy. Yeah, I think it's worth it, especially with the injury doubt. Otherwise, I probably would say hold. I think Foden's a good option if he's fit. Would you wildcard now for Chilwell, Duffy, Kai, Brownhill, Adama, Tony to Alonso, Lamdi, Jota, Cornet, Gallagher, Hwang? The thing is, Maelstrom, Hwang is not someone I'm too really convinced about. He's just a kind of short-term option for the next 2 game weeks. If it's a Jimenez, I'd be a bit more confident over the next 2, and then you can move him on. But Hwang's a bit difficult because you have to move him on afterwards. I guess you'd be looking at maybe Joshua King in 2 game weeks' time or Benteke. You can wildcard now, but if not, I'd probably hold it for 16. Price drop tonight, Chilwell, be careful. Yeah, I'll probably be making my transfers tonight and confirming them later on. But right now, I've got 2 free transfers and haven't used them yet. Thoughts on Reagan? I talked about him in my recent videos, including yesterday's preview, and I think he's a good option. For me, it's firstly a priority of Reece James, Trent and Cancelo. Then in the kind of level below that, it's Alonso and Rudiger. And then below that is Reagan. And then maybe your kind of bench options like Lamdi, Livramento, Ben White, etc. But he is a good option, I think. In terms of Spurs defenders, he's the pick of the bunch. Statistically, he is probably the best. So that's what I would say. And by the way, thank you very much to everyone who voted in the poll. We're going to end it now. 372 votes. 53% of you went with Alonso and Jota in for Chilwell and Foden. So thank you very much to everyone who tuned in and also voted in the poll. And yeah, let me just put a new message up here. Yeah, we'll be getting through your questions very shortly. All right, so let's see. Start Jesus or Hwang? That's tough, mate. Probably Hwang, but I think Jesus could do well against West Ham. Yeah, it's really hard for me to decide. I mean, I can see why, to be fair. Andy Collins says, already have Jota and James, so Foden plus Silva. That leaves me funds to get in Alonso next game week. Otherwise, I double transfer Alonso by downgrading Antonio Hwang next game week. Yeah, I think Hwang downgrade next game week looks pretty good. Or maybe not next game week necessarily, but in 2 game weeks' time. Could James outscore King? Definitely, mate. I think so, yeah. Yeah, that's my predicament this week. Already have Gallagher, and with us playing Newcastle at home this week, think it could be a good time for ESR. Rotating him and Gallagher should be good. Jota so tempting though. Yeah. Thing is with Smith Rowe, the numbers aren't really sustainable. I think there will be a drop off. I still think he's one of the best options around his price, but I'd be more tempted by someone like Gallagher instead. But yeah, once again, you do have him already. Who should I start, Mbumo or Rafinha? I would start Rafinha. Bernardo or Cornet? Probably Bernardo, but I do like Cornet. Henry, Pinnock or Janssen? I'm not really a big fan of Brentford defence at the moment. I'd probably avoid, but if you want to pick one, it has to be Rico Henry. He looks the most attacking, and he's getting the goals. What do you think about Son? Because Squid Game 2 is getting filmed soon. Wow, really? No, he's a good option, mate. Come on, mate. Should I sell Foden for Gallagher or Bernardo, or leave him and play Antonio? I would rather have Gallagher long term, John, so I'd do that. Dylan, I'm 1st, 5th and 8th in all my leagues. How do I keep up my points tally? I think just continue what you're doing so far and don't be kind of... don't just follow the crowd or the herd all the time. And sometimes, making your own decisions is the best course of action. Obviously, a lot of people in your situation would kind of be protective of their lead. But just back your gut. And, if, for example, a lot of people are getting Bernardo Silva in and you're not really too sure, don't do it just for the sake of it. If Foden doesn't play, I have Dennis Livramento on the bench. Already got Jota done, Chilwell to Alonso. No need to take the hit. No need to take the hit for me, Anish. I think you can just survive there. Best goalkeeper to buy now. Still Ramsdale for me, but if not, Gaeta, you saw the other day the kind of weakness from Palace in terms of set plays, which Burnley, of course, kind of exposed to a T. McCarthy as well, some kind of average fixtures. Has to be Ramsdale for me, of course. Then again, they did concede 4 goals to Liverpool, but a lot of teams can do that. Aubameyang says, Ola, yeah, he could be a nice differential, but I'm not too keen on him. Alonso starts, I think so, Gary. Could Odegaard be a pick over Gundogan? Not for me. And Odegaard isn't really getting into the team at the moment. It's Lacazette playing as that kind of second striker or attacking midfielder. Should I sell Foden for Gallagher or Bernardo or leave him and play Antonio? I wouldn't mind leaving him and playing Antonio, but if you're looking to sell, I'd get Gallagher. Sanchez to Ramsdale for free transfer. It's a good move, I think, but then again, you can just keep Sanchez. Long term, though, for me, Ramsdale, if you have that spare transfer and you're not looking to use it elsewhere, I'd do it. What is your transfer move this week? Chilwell to Alonso only? No, perhaps I will use 2 free transfers and it will involve either Townsend to Gallagher or Foden to Jota. Maybe those 2 will be my transfers instead, and I will just keep Chilwell for now and, play 3 at the back and maybe 5 or 4 in midfield. But we'll wait and see, of course. Not really completely sold on it yet. Foden set to drop tonight too. Not too surprised. Chilwell to Reagan or Lamdi? I'd be pretty tempted by Reagan in that case, but yeah, Lamdi is significantly cheaper. That's the thing. I'd probably say Lamdi, but Reagan is a good option. Which transfer are you leaning towards? Townsend to Gallagher, really. I think if it wasn't for the Foden injury doubt, then I would definitely keep Foden and not really think about Jota right now. But because he's an... Oh, Jesus. Voice crack. 1 second. Because he's an injury doubt, I probably would... Actually, it's kind of 50-50 now. But of course, if it wasn't for that injury, Townsend to Gallagher, easy move for me. Alright, we're back. Jesus, that's annoying. Hey Dylan, who to start between Jose Sarr and Ramsdale? Then which 3 would you start? Rafinha, Mbeumo, Townsend, Antonio White. I'd start Ramsdale, and in terms of which 3 to start, Emafon, or yeah, I'd start Rafinha, Mbeumo, and White. Chilwell's due to go down in price tonight if you don't sell him tonight, so you'll only be able to get 5.6 million instead of 5.8. Yeah, but once again, I'm not really too bothered about price rises and price changes, but to be honest, the injury doubts could be making way. Should I sell Foden for Gallagher or Bernardo? Gallagher, mate, John, as I said before. Cheers. Thinking a wildcard only because my bench is crap. Might be wiser to keep it for when hits the fan during the busy schedule. Yeah, I completely understand that, mate, and that's a really good advantage to have, having that wildcard in your back pocket. Dylan, I brought in Sancho for free. Should I take a hit to bring in someone for Chilwell? It depends. If you have a good bench and you can cover it, even with Antonio coming on, I'd just avoid the hit for now. What is your top differential for the winter games? Yeah, Luke, you already asked this question and I spent like a few minutes talking about the best differentials for defenders, midfielders and attackers. So in terms of attack, Benteke and King are my choices. In terms of the midfield, I believe I went with Cornet, and in defence, Alonso. Gallagher is due to go up in price tonight. Yeah, you see, everyone's going up in price, it seems, and going down. But if it won't happen tomorrow or today, it will happen in the coming weeks or coming days. Tony or Foden on the bench? Probably Foden, but that's the thing. Will he start? And to be honest, I'm not really too confident with benching either of them. But Foden is the kind of injured out. But if he does start, he could do well against West Ham. Do you think Van der Beek is going to be an interesting option with Ranić? He could get more game time, but maybe from a deeper position as such, with Bruno Fernandes being in the same team. But let's wait and see how he sets his team up. Obviously, we don't know how he's going to do right now. Hwang or Tony to start? I would go for Tony, but it's a tough one. Thank you very much to Kenny for becoming a differential, for joining the channel as a member. Very much appreciated, mate. And same with everyone else who's become a channel member and sending super chats. Very much appreciated. And good to see you here again, Kenny. Should I live in Chilwell or sell him? I'd sell him, but you don't have to sell him right now, especially if you've already made transfers and you have to take a hit to get rid of him. But yeah, that's what I would do. Jimenez in or out? Nah, I mean, if you have Jimenez, hold him. And if you're willing to have someone for 2 game weeks, then bring him in. But do not be selling him right now. And around game week 14-15, it's a sell, definitely, with those fixtures. Should I keep Vardy? Yes, I'd keep him, Robert. How much longer are you holding Vardy? At least for 1 more game week, but because I have other transfers to make and I'm also happy with the fixtures for Leicester, I might keep him for the next 4 game weeks and then look to sell him. Rafinha for Jota for a hit? Yeah, Andreas, I answered this question already. You might not have been in the chat when I said this, but I wouldn't do it for a hit, even though I like Jota a lot. Do you think Werner's a differential? Yeah, he could be a nice one, but I'm not too keen on bringing him in. I would rather just have the fullbacks, Rudiger, and potentially Lukaku. He's someone I'm looking at, but not Timo Werner as such. I've already got James and Alonso for a -4. I also got Jota in for Rafinha. It's my first time playing FPL and it's surprisingly stressful. yeah, that's something I found out very quickly as well. No, you don't. Once again, any questions about should I get rid of Rafinha to Jota for a hit? No, Rafinha's cleared to play this weekend and he has good free fixtures coming up. Then get rid of him. But right now, I don't think is the time to sell. I took the risk, Foden off, Jota in. I think that could pay off though, Adam. But Townsend could get a return since Richarlison's out. But then again, I mean, that's the reason why I got him in on my wild card. He had the best stats, or one of the best stats, amongst his price range up until the point I wildcarded. And Richarlison was out and Calvert-Lewin was out. So all the signs were there for at least 1 or 2 hauls for Townsend, and it didn't happen. So yeah, it can happen. He could do well against Brentford, but I'm still looking to sell. Even if he does well this week, you know, I'm not really going to regret it long term. Yeah, Foden due to go down tomorrow. Hey Dylan, Chilwell replacement strategy. Chilwell and Foden out for James and Jota. Strategy 2, Chilwell and Armstrong out for Alonso and Tony. Which is better? Great question. Probably James and Jota in, but of course, Foden, if he's fit, can be a very good option. And in the coming weeks, I would do Armstrong out to King, Benteke or Tony. Start the first 3 defenders. James, Reagan, White or Cancelo. I would probably bench Reagan, but that could easily backfire, of course. Would you start Mbeumo or King? I would start Mbeumo this week, but King could do well. He could be on penalties as well. Would you transfer in Jota for a -4? Says Adam. It depends who you bring out for him. But if it's like a Rafinha or something, just hold. Which 2 should start? Tony, Hwang or Smith Rowe? Tony and Smith Rowe for me, but I do like Hwang as well. Still believing in Raf. For the next 3, as I said in my transfer tips video, he's a hold for me, but around Game Week 16 is definitely a sell, just like Jimenez in Game Week 14. Chilwell to Reagan or Lamdi? Yeah, I said this before, Wasting, probably Lamdi, but I do like Reagan too. Antonio to Jimenez. Yeah, for the next 2, and then look to sell him. With Foden in doubt, should Janssen be considered? Janssen? I thought you were talking about Janssen, the defender, actually, for Brentford, but yeah, if you're talking about him, obviously that's a kind of different player to talk about. If Foden's in doubt, the players I'd be looking at is, for example, Jota, definitely. He's an easy switch. If not, Bernardo Silva, Cornet, Smith Rowe, Gallagher. I'd put Gallagher ahead of Smith Rowe and Cornet, and also Jarrod Bowen around Game Week 18. Ramsdale or Sanchez as a sub? I'd start Ramsdale. Foden to Bernardo for a -4. Jota already owned. Because Foden's an injury doubt, that could be worth the hit, but otherwise I'd just be inclined to keep him, and if need be, your bench will come into play. What should I do with Azpilicueta? Take a hit or transfer him to James? Yeah, get rid of him for James, Kian. Is it worth having Ronaldo and Son? If not, who should I take them out for? I already have Salah, ESR and Boomer. Yeah, maybe Ronaldo to Kane, at least for the next few game weeks, or Jamie Vardy. And as for Son, I'd probably keep him for now and then look to move him on in a few game weeks' time, maybe to Bruno Fernandes around game week 16. So you could have maybe the combination of Bruno Fernandes and Harry Kane. Foden to Son or Foden to Jota? Right now it has to be Jota, Aaron. Townsend to Jota or Gallagher for a hit? I'd do Jota, Tammy. Which 2 should start Tony, Hwang, or Smith Rowe? I answered this already, Derry. I would start Tony and Smith Rowe. And yeah, just kind of a heads up for anyone. If you do repeat the question, especially if I've already answered it, it won't be answered. Just a little heads up. I got Saka, Son, and Mbumo, Salah, Rafinha. Do I need Gallagher? Who should I give up for Gallagher? This week, you can afford to keep them, John, but long term, Saka and Mbumo, definitely sell them for Gallagher and perhaps maybe a Bowen or someone else. Go for Jota and James, but leave in Livramento and Gray, or go for Jota, Alonso, Gallagher, and White across 2 weeks. Tough one, isn't it? I mean, I would love to have James in your situation. I think he's one of the best defenders to have at the moment, if not the best. Probably in your situation, I get Jota, Alonso, Gallagher, and White. Douglas Luiz finally green. Yeah, he might not start, but he should be in the squad for Villa. Foden to Jota and Chilwell to James -4. Thoughts? I think it's a good hit. Obviously, I'm not really that happy with the Foden situation, but because he's an injured out, I think that is worth it. Jota or Benteke? Jota, definitely. I find it difficult to choose between King and Johnson. King more proven and differential. Johnson, I'd rather have King, yeah, in that case, but mainly so in 3 game weeks time. Arsenal clean sheet against Newcastle. I'm not that confident as I was probably, if it was Steve Bruce taking charge. So it's a tough one, but it's possible, just not as possible as it was beforehand. Play Duffy or Rafinha? Easy, mate, Rafinha. Foden to, yeah, no need to spam the chat, mate. Will Lukaku start this game week? Thomas Tuchel actually mentioned this and saying that even if he isn't fully fit, Lukaku will claim to be. I think he actually might, facing his old club, but they don't have to. Chelsea have the luxury of, having so much depth, and they can even play, wingers as the false 9 or whatever. But I think he will start, and if not, it will definitely be game week 14. Which two, Tony, Pukki, or Jesus? To start this week, Tony and Jesus, but to have long term, probably, yeah, maybe Tony and Jesus as well. Do you think I should take a hit for Foden to Jota? Because of the injury doubt, I'd say yes, potentially, but otherwise, it's definitely a hold for me, and don't take the hit, or, don't. It's just the injury doubt that's kind of made that kind of a viable transfer. When is it best to sell Rafinha? 3 game weeks time, Jeremy. So in game week 16, when the fixtures turn, you can sell him now, but I think you can just hold him for the next 3 and, sort out the other fires in your squad. Take a punt to play Adama versus Norwich or Duffy versus Leeds, says Maelstrom. I'd play Adama versus Norwich, but I'm not really a big fan of either of them, to be honest. Sell De Gea to afford James, or keep De Gea and get Alonso? Sell De Gea to get James, mate. Start Sanchez or Foster? I start Sanchez. I don't see a clean sheet for Watford. Is Foden fit? He's been training. Apparently he's much better. He's been doing individual training, but is he going to start? I don't think so, personally. Force on Emerson Real as an option. I think he's decent, but I'd just rather go for Reagan. He has more attacking potential, better underlying stats. He'll get more assists. Emerson could maybe get more goals, but not too sure about Emerson. I mean, in general, I'm not a big fan of Spurs' defence. But they are good options, Emerson and Reagan, but I'd rather go for Reagan, to be honest. I have Werner. Do I play it instead of Bernardo Silva or Reagan, or do I keep him on the bench? I'd probably keep him on the bench, to be honest. Do you think Foden to Jota is worth it, even if I have to take a -4? Because of the injury doubt, it could be worth it, but otherwise, not for me. And honestly, it just depends on if you think Foden's going to play or not. I personally don't think he's going to start. But even if he's just missing a game week, he could be back for game week 14 or 15. So I wouldn't mind, just keeping Foden and, not taking the hit for Jota and just keeping things as they are. Gallagher or Tony as subs? I'd probably bench Gallagher in that case, but I'm not really too sure. Alonso guaranteed to start? Not 100%, but I think he will start. He's the only natural left wing back available. My team, Sanchez, Trent, Cancelo, James, Royale, Salah, Rafinha, Gallagher, Jota, Kane, Tony. Thoughts? It's a good team. See how Royale does over the next few weeks, but the rest of your defence looks very good. Your midfield is good as well, and your attack, so you're looking in good shape. And yeah, if you ever need money, Royale could be downgraded to a Lamdi or someone cheaper even. Noah says Ramsdale, Livramento, Rudiger, Christensen. Johnson, Alonso. Christensen, Livramento to Johnson, Alonso, or Christensen, Tony to James, 5.5 million striker. That's the thing though, which 5.5 million striker would you go for? I think King is just a little bit more. and also with maybe Emmanuel Dennis, but he's missing out with AFCON next month potentially. So I probably would do Christensen, Livramento to Johnson and Alonso in your situation, mate. But I do like the other move as well, but I would do that instead. Yeah. Hwang or Rafinha? I'd start Rafinha this week. What do you think about Saint-Maximin? Decent option for the next 3, but beyond that, poor fixtures for Newcastle. Lucas Moura, thoughts? Not for me. It's for me Son, Harry Kane, Reagan or Emerson. I wouldn't go for Lucas Moura. Foden going down in price tonight? Yeah, I've seen a few people saying that. Son or Jota? Jota at the moment, I have to say, but I do like Son as well. It's just I'd rather have Harry Kane to cover Spurs attack. Lukaku will not start this game week. He'll come off the bench for about 20 minutes. Fair enough, that could happen. Either way, by game week 14 or 15, he should be starting. Since you want to have Foden and Jota, you'll need to play FIFA. Yeah, you already said this before, Mohammed, and I have been thinking about it as well. Start Benteke or Gallagher this week. I'd start... That's tough. Probably Benteke. But long term, I'd rather have Gallagher. Havertz or Sancho? It's tough. Probably Sancho, but I'm not really a big fan of either of them at the moment. Can I keep Edison or sell him for a -4 and get Gallagher? I'd sell him, I guess, and for a hit. But yeah, I don't really like, hits involving goalkeepers. You know what? I just keep him and don't get Gallagher for a hit and just get him next week for 2 free transfers in your situation. Son or Jota? Yeah, answered this already. Force on Eze. Nothing really to think about right now because we haven't seen too much of him. But I think he was very good last season when he played, and he will get minutes and he could become an integral starter once again with Patrick Vieira. What will that mean for Gallagher, though? Who's going to play in the more advanced position? It could be Eze, actually, with Gallagher playing a bit deeper. But I still think they're good options, especially Gallagher. But let's wait and see. I'm just a bit concerned about how Eze will affect Gallagher more so, than just looking at Eze himself. Who do you think will start in place of Chilwell? Alonso, I think. Is it okay to do Diaz to Cancelo? I think it's more than okay. I think it's the right thing to do. Jota in for Foden or no need? Well, normally I'd say no later on. There's no need. But because he's an injury out, there could be one. Obviously, it's tough to say. We don't know the full extent. Pep was being very unhelpful in his press conference, to say the least. But I think it's a good move, ultimately. So I'd probably do it. But you don't have to. Who should I bench? Tony, Hwang, Bowen or Laporte? Either Bowen or Laporte, I think. And I'd probably be benching Laporte, I guess. Hi, mate. Enjoying the stream. Antonio and White, which is first and second sub, respectively. Probably White first, Antonio second. Callum, thank you very much for tuning in. The Fantasy Lad says team. Ramsdale, Foster, White, Cancelo, Trent, Livramento, Chilwell, Rafinha, Son. What would you do? Looking at your team, your attack is fine for now. Obviously, Antonio has some poor fixtures, but you can keep him. Your midfield is good. Your midfield is just good, I think. Rafinha, Son, yes, Salah. Yeah, good for midfielders. Yeah, Chilwell. I think Chilwell is the one you want to get rid of. If you have enough money, James. Simple switch. Chilwell to James, and you have a good defence as well. Will Dennis be starting this game week? Says Jeremy. Let me just double check. I might be getting him confused with someone else. But Sarr is the one who's an injury doubt. I think, yeah, Dennis should be fine to start. And also Joshua King. And Joshua King should be on penalties too. But yeah, Sarr is the one who's a doubt. It looks like he's going to be ruled out for game week 13. What if Alonso doesn't start? I mean, it's a possibility. You got to be prepared for it. But I think he will start. But if he doesn't, it will be Azpilicueta probably as the left wing back. Gallagher or Hwang or Rafinha first sub. I wouldn't want to bench either of them. I mean, that's just really tough. Having all of them on your bench, I probably would bench in first sub. So the one I'd want to prioritise the most is Rafinha, I guess. Get Alonso for a -4 against the weakest defence in the Premier League. It depends. If you can cover it, you don't have to take the hit, and you can just get him in ahead of Watford next week. But yeah, it's not a bad hit, to be honest. Saint-Maximin to Hwang and Chilwell to James for a -8. I wouldn't do that, Astro. I think Saint-Maximin can do well against Tomiyasu, and Hwang is just a 2-game week punt. Chilwell to James, I'd do that for a -4, mate. I wouldn't do Saint-Maximin to Hwang. Hwang or Tony or Kane or Alonso or Smith Rowe as subs. Hwang, I'd probably bench, and I would bench... Don't bench Kane. I'd bench Alonso, I guess. Yeah, or Smith Rowe. Probably Alonso. So I'd bench Alonso and Hwang. Son out, Jota and Bernardo in. Should I do it? I just keep Son, to be honest, even though I like Jota and Bernardo. Hey bro, green arrows this week, hopefully, and to you as well. Best 4.5 million defender for the bench. I have Livramento, probably Lamdi at the moment, based on the fixtures and also how offensive he is. Would you start Tony or take a hit to get Jota and transfer out Tony? I'd keep Tony, Adam. Best captain, Salah, of course, and if not, Vardy. I think Vardy could be the best captain other than Mohamed Salah. Also Trent. Look at Trent, and Cancelo's also not too bad, but I'd mainly be looking at Vardy, outside the Salah sphere. Start Gallagher or Rafinha? I'd start Rafinha. Planning to get in Callum Wilson for Tony for game weeks 14 and 15. Good idea. I probably wouldn't, mate, because he's one yellow card away from suspension and he's only good for 3 game weeks, so not for me. Bench one from Rudiger, Reagan, Mbeumo and Rafinha. I would bench probably either Reagan or Rudiger. If Rudiger's your only Chelsea cover, defensive cover, then I would bench Reagan. If you have James already, then I'd bench Rudiger. Jota or Gallagher? If I buy Gallagher, then I would have money for Alonso next game week, but if not, I can still play with James, Trent and Cancelo. I still prefer Jota, though, for the next month or so, but of course, Gallagher long-term is just a very good option. I'm just a bit concerned about several aspects, like Milivojevic in the side, and also Eze when he comes back into the mix in the starting lineup. But I'd probably do, in your situation, if you really want Alonso, then just get Gallagher in, but otherwise, I'd get Jota for me. Which two would you start out of Tony, Rafinha, Rudiger? I would start Rafinha and Tony. Which two would you start out of Tony, Rafinha, Rudiger? Wait, did I just read out, didn't I? Yeah, my bad. Thank you very much for handling the chat, Kobe. Very much appreciated. Having a bit of a benching headache this week. Who would you play, Rudiger or Kane? I'd play Kane, mate. Thank you, the fantasy football lad. Should I start Foden and keep Rafinha in the first bench anyway, or just start Rafinha? I'd start Rafinha, to be honest, Crispy, in that situation. Of course, it can backfire if Foden starts. What are your thoughts on captaincy picks this week, Dylan? I literally just talked about it now, Kenny, and Barry, thank you very much for tuning in and becoming a member. I think Salah is, of course, the standout, but, we all know this about Salah. You don't need me to tell you that. So, if we look at the fixtures now, I think Vardy is a standout against Watford. And also, Trent Alexander-Arnold against Southampton is a very good choice. I believe he was rested during midweek. If you want a really differential captain, maybe Aubameyang against Newcastle, but I'd mainly be looking at Vardy, Trent, and also Salah, of course. Other captaincy options, Jimenez could be decent, but once again, it's mainly Vardy and Trent for me. So that's kind of my thoughts on the captaincy. Despite the fact, United have been very poor this season, I wouldn't captain a Chelsea player this week. Maybe James, potentially, but other than that, I wouldn't captain any of their other players. Son or Kane aren't bad against Burnley, but once again, Vardy is ahead in the kind of rankings. Also, the same goes for Trent Alexander-Arnold. So that's my thoughts on the captaincy this week. And once again, I'm going to be putting the armband on Salah, I believe. And also the effective ownership is going to be crazy, as it always is with Mohamed Salah. So that's kind of my 2 cents on the matter. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. And yeah, let's actually get rid of that. Let's see. Let's try to get through any more questions. Thank you very much, by the way. 180 people watching. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe for new. It really helps out the channel. Let's see. Havertz to Jota, Aspie to James, Tsimikas to Trent, CR7 to Jimenez. What do you think? I think those are all really good transfers. I probably would do that, to be honest, yeah. I think the only thing is CR7 to Jimenez. Jimenez is really good for 2 game weeks. Just make sure that you have someone planned to get in around 2 game weeks time. And if you want to get Ronaldo back in a few weeks, you might have to take a hit or make other transfers. But I think that looks good. Thoughts on Hudson-Odoi? Not really someone I'm thinking about. Same with all the other Chelsea assets in midfield. I'm just looking at their fullbacks and Rudiger and Lukaku up front, but not their midfielders at the moment. But Hudson-Odoi could be a nice differential in certain game weeks. Just not someone I'm looking at in my FPL team. Start Rafinha or King? I'd start Rafinha. Foden or Mbeumo? Yeah, if you feel Foden 1 point, just start Mbeumo, but otherwise it has to be Foden for me. Start Hwang or Rafinha. Chilwell to Alonso for a -4 here. I think it makes sense. Chilwell's going to be out for several months at least. Jota just went up 0.1 million, so I'm stoked. Yeah, he went up yesterday. Should I get rid of Foden and Gray to Bernardo and Jota? Thanks for your streams, Dylan. Plus, you look like a kid from a Christmas Story film. Wow, thank you very much. I look like a kid, apparently. Yeah. Should I get rid of Foden and Gray? To be honest, I think Gray, yeah. If you can just do Gray to Jota, I'd do that instead, and maybe just keep Foden. But I think those two transfers look good, Ed, and thank you very much. Edison, Cancelo, James, Duffy, Alonso, says Neo. Yeah, ultimately, I think I would rather have a cheaper goalkeeper than Edison, and also Duffy is kind of a concern for me long term. I'd look to get in Trent, so Edison downgrade to a Ramsdale, then upgrade Duffy to Trent is definitely what I would recommend. But the rest looks very good, to be honest. All right, so Antonio Benteke this week, Benteke, but yeah, I think for the next few games it has to be Benteke. Long term, that's when I would say probably Antonio. Yeah, Havertz to Jota, Chilwell to James for a -4. I think that's worth it, mate. I will do that. How long do I keep Kane? Next 3 game weeks, and then I'd sell potentially. Obviously, if he does well, then that's when I'd look to potentially change things up. Start Gallagher or Hwang. Probably Hwang in that case, but not too sure about that one. What are your transfer plans for the next 4 or 5 game weeks or longer? I already talked about this in my preview. And by the way, Shari, I answered one of your questions in the preview. But yeah, just to kind of recap, my plans are to perhaps get Alonso, if not a cheaper defender, in for Chilwell. So obviously that's a priority. Townsend to Gallagher. Getting Jota in, whether it's for Foden or maybe even Rafinha. And the other transfer could be potentially Bernardo in for Rafinha if I do get rid of Foden. And other than that, maybe Vardy. You know, if I'm really impressed by Man United, I could find a way to get Bruno Fernandes or Ronaldo into my team. But right now, that's kind of my plans. And as you can see, not really thinking about Spurs too much. But of course, you can't have everyone. And I've got other, ways to improve my squad. Would you hold Antonio to the good fixtures? I mean, in this kind of scenario, I'm not really too impressed by the other options. And I'm kind of forced to just hold him because I've got other fires to put out. But otherwise, if I had a clean slate, I didn't have Townsend, and of course Chilwell was still fit, I actually would consider maybe getting Jimenez for 2 game weeks or just someone for the longer term like Benteke. Yeah, already answered the question about Hudson-Odoi, mate. For me, I'm not really looking at him as an asset. I think he's a decent choice, but there's so many other better options in midfield. Start King or Foden? I'd start Foden just in case. Ramsdale, Foster? Easy, Ramsdale. Really good stream. Could Norman be an option to Jota? Even captaincy potential? Norman, nah. And he plays even, in an even deeper position now for Norwich with Gilmour playing further up the field. But yeah, not for me. Non-FPL question. Do you do Champions League pick'ems with score predictions? I just do UCL fantasy content, so the deadline streams, best limitless, wildcard teams, also the team selection. I don't do the score prediction kind of stuff. I sometimes show it in my streams when people ask, but I don't actually dedicate videos to that. Mbeumo, is he worth keeping or selling? He is worth selling, but you can also keep him just for this one more game week. But yeah, to sell him, yeah, for Gallagher, Smith Rowe, once again, Cornet, Bowen, all these other options I keep talking about. Thank you, Kenny. I sold Foden for Jota before his price rise for a -4. Bad idea. I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. Foden could be out this game week and Jota could outscore him up until January. Play Gaito or Ramsdale? I'd play Ramsdale. Callum Hudson-Odoi, yeah. Any questions about Hudson-Odoi? I already answered this. But yeah, I'm not really looking at him. I think there's just better options. Jota keep until? At this rate, it looks like keeping him until February because African Cup of Nations, that's when Jota's just going to become a mainstay in the starting 11. Jota or Mane? Jota for me. I do like Mane, of course. He's looking very good. The second best premium at the moment, but Jota for me. Start Hwang or Dennis? I'd start Hwang. Considering Son as captain, thoughts? I think he's a good option this week, but I'd just rather go for Salah and Trent, Vardy, etc. What's your opinion on Ziyech? I like him sometimes for UCL fantasy, but in FPL, not really for me. And once again, just like with Hudson-Odoi, I think there's better options elsewhere. You're looking at Jota, Bernardo Silva, Foden when he's fit. Also the cheaper options like Gallagher, Smith Rowe, Foden. Not Foden, sorry. Bowen. There's just so many options. I wouldn't go for him. What happens if the storm in Liverpool causes the game to be postponed? That's a good point. That's something I saw earlier on. I think some people said that if you actually read the article, they don't actually mention Liverpool as such. So they're mentioning the areas around Liverpool, but let's wait and see. Obviously, that could happen, and that could be the first kind of case of a game being postponed this season. If I have Salah captain and Trent vice captain, then I won't get any points. Yeah, just in case, mate, don't vice captain Trent, vice captain someone else. If you have Vardy, vice captain him, for example, or a Spurs asset. Smith Rowe to Jota for a -4. No, I think Smith Rowe could do well this week. He faces Newcastle. I wouldn't take a hit for that. Foden to Jota and Chilwell to James for a -8 hit. Once again, probably would just do a -4 Chilwell to James and keep Foden for now. Dylan is subscribed to Hydro Homies. Yeah, I need it, mate, because my voice is going at the moment, unfortunately. I have Ramsdale, Trent, James Cancelo at the back. Yeah, I mean, that's perfectly fine. I think that's a good back line, Jeremy. Good evening, mate. Good to see you here, the Flying Dutchman. Thank you very much for tuning in. Keep Havertz or sell? I'd sell him. He's a doubt for this week anyway, and whether he's fit or not, I'd sell him. There's so many better options. Foden to Gallagher for a -4. I probably would just keep Foden, especially if you have cover, just in case Foden misses out. But Gallagher is, of course, a good option long term. Would I take a hit for him, though? Probably not this week. I think they could struggle a bit to Villa. Jota and Davis or Tony and Rafinha. As a duo, it has to be Tony and Rafinha. But once again, you know, in 3 game weeks' time, you probably want to get rid of Rafinha. Say Maximan or Benteke. For me, Benteke, because long term Palace have better fixtures. Chris says, thanks for the live stream. Currently I have Sarr, James Cancelo, Alonso, Smith Rowe, Son, Salah, Huang, Vardy, Benteke, Gallagher, Livramento, Brownhill, Steele. Who to bench? Thank you. Thank you very much for your question and your kind words, Chris. In terms of who you would bench, that's tough. I would definitely bench Livramento and Brownhill and Steele, of course. The last one to bench, I probably would be looking to bench Gallagher, actually. I think Benteke, you know, facing his former club, I think he could be more likely to score. Once again, though, on a normal day, I'd just back Gallagher over Benteke. Also the midfielder, extra points for a goal and the clean sheet. Starting 11, Ramsdale, Trent, James Cancelo. So this is Matthew's team. Your thoughts? Yeah, I think I agree with your bench on the whole. You could arguably play Mbeumo over maybe Gallagher. Yeah, but the rest is fine. I don't think you need to make a transfer this week, so that's what I'd probably do. Just Mbeumo maybe for Gallagher, but other than that, you've already got Tony. I think that's probably the right starting 11. Back 5 of Trent, Cancelo, Alonso, James, Reagan. I think that looks pretty good, to be honest, Mahish. Yeah, that looks very solid, to be honest. Especially Alonso, James, Cancelo and Trent. The only thing I would say, though, is that you have a lot of money invested in your defence. I would rather have, in terms of the structure of the team, have a budget defender than Reagan or maybe Alonso. Vardy or Jimenez? Vardy for me, because he's just a good option for the next 4. Jimenez is just a good option for the next 2. Would Lukaku play against United? It's not guaranteed, Mustafa. He might not even start, but there is a chance. And Lukaku will be desperate to play against his former club. And I think there is a chance. If not, he'll be playing in Game Week 14. So Salah and Mane can't play UCL also if they're going to AFCON. The tournament won't be lasting that long. So it's for around January. Around February, they'll be fine and they'll be ready for UCL Fantasy. And also for Matchday 6. Should I get Lukaku for Kane? No, just keep Kane, mate. Obviously, Lukaku, I've actually highlighted him. I talked about him in yesterday's preview. I think he could be very good in the coming weeks. But don't get him in right now, especially for Kane. Is Saiss or Nuri a good option? Once again with Wolves, it's kind of a short-term pick, so I wouldn't recommend them. If I had to pick one of those two, definitely Nuri, 4.3 million. Pretty decent going forward. But would you really get him in for just 2 game weeks? Not for me. Only Jimenez is the only guy I'd be bringing in from Wolves, and that's just for 2 game weeks. Play Ramsdale, Sanchez. Ramsdale, mate. Brian. Thank you, Cohen. Start King or Foden. I'd start Foden. Huang or Reagan first sub. For me, it has to be... Yeah, I'd put Huang first sub. Duffy or White, bench 1 for Foden. White for me, definitely. Jota, Lamdi in for Saka and Chilwell -4. I think that's not too bad, to be honest. It's just Saka's facing Newcastle. I think he could do well. But I'd take the hit. I'd do it, Steve. Is it Foden to Jota worth the hit? Or for free, worth it? Yeah, I think it's worth it, to be honest. Because of the injury doubt. Otherwise, it's still worth it, but you don't have to. But because there is a doubt, I think it's actually probably a suggestible thing to do. I probably would say it's the right thing to do, yeah. How do you see Mitchell? He could be one of the better budget defenders, but once again with Palace, I talked about this earlier with Gaeta. Their defence can be very susceptible, and Burnley really exposed them from set pieces. Mitchell, though, could be decent. I don't see him getting too many attacking returns, but he could be one of the better budget options around 4.5 million. You can also go for Lamdi, though, from Brighton, who have a better defence, arguably. Will Howe coach the team this week? Yes, he will, Weiss, saying that's been confirmed. He's going to be in the dugout against Arsenal. Sorry if you've had this one already, but what are your options, opinions on Foden to Jota for a -4? Obviously, because Foden is a doubt, I think it kind of justifies the hit. But I think they'll score similarly over the next month or so. Foden has exceptional fixtures in a few game weeks' time. But Jota, then again, he's going to be playing most of the games for the next month or two, even with Firmino back, because AFCON is coming around January. So I think Jota's a good option. Chilwell to Chambers for a -4? No, mate. I wouldn't take a -4 to get Chambers in. And also, Chambers isn't starting for Arsenal. It's Tomiyasu playing as the right back and Ben White and Gabriel as the centre-backs. Mahesh says, while having back 5, Trent, Cancelo, James, Alonso, Reagan, I got Foden benched, playing Salah, Son, Jota, Hwang and Jimenez. Doesn't look too bad. Obviously, bear in mind, though, in 2 game weeks' time, Wolves have awful fixtures and having a double up of Wolves attack is a problem, to be honest. But it's a good team for now. But once again, if you need money, I think it just makes sense to downgrade one of those defenders and the rest can, remain pricey. How do we check expecting price rises and drops? There's several sites that have this. I think Fantasy Football Fix also. I think in terms of some sites, if you just type in price rises, FPL price rises, there'll be certain sites that monitor this. Should I hold Aspie? Will he play? I would. That's a good question now because obviously Chilwell is injured, but you would suspect there will be Alonso coming in. So I would sell him, to be honest. I would sell him. I'd sell him for James if you don't have him already, and if not, Rudiger or Alonso. And if not, you can go to someone else. Salah to Dele Alli, since Salah is playing soon African Cup of Nations. Nah, mate. Dele Alli, no. I mean, this is not 2015-16. Keep Salah for now. Obviously, you make a good point. Getting rid of Salah, that is something we have to do probably when the time comes, around January, but not now. Keep Salah. You'd be doing a really bad thing getting rid of him now, especially for Ali. Thank you very much, mate. Mark says, Reece James essential. I don't like putting these kind of terms like essential and stuff, but honestly, at the moment, I think having at least one of Reece James, Trent or Cancelo is essential pretty much. And Salah, of course, is, that's kind of beyond debate. But I think so, yeah. Playing 8 Nuri or Mbumo? Tony already in my starting 11. Tough one. I'd probably say it Nuri in that case, but Mbumo could do well against Everton. I think this is where he could finally start delivering. Smith Rowe or Gallagher? For this game week, I think Smith Rowe. I think he'll outscore him. Long term, Gallagher for me is the better option. Jeremy says, should I take a hit to bring in Ronaldo or not? I have Hwang, Tony and Dennis in my attack. Bringing in Ronaldo for a hit when he's facing Chelsea and he doesn't have a good record in the big games this season, I don't think so, mate. That's something for Game Week 16 onwards. If you're going to take a hit for a premium striker, has to be Kane or Vardy, not Ronaldo this week. Of course, he can score against Chelsea, but I just don't think it's the right time. Raffle says, starting 11, Sanchez, Rudiger. Let me just read this out quickly mentally. One free transfer, is it Foden, Jota for Foden worth it or roll? It's a good team, to be honest. I think it's worth it doing Foden to Jota, especially with that injured out. And after that, you can start to maybe adjust other things. In a few game weeks' time, you can get rid of Wilson, for example. And bear in mind, he's 1 yellow card away from suspension. And also, Game Week 14, Semedo, definite sell. There's no doubt about it. And I look to find a way to get in maybe Reece James. I think that's the kind of big thing missing in your team, Raffle. Top of my Melee League, would you hold your triple captain for as long as possible? Says Liam, it's not necessarily a case of just holding it for as long as possible. I'm just keeping it simple. Either using it in a double game week or when Salah has a very good fixture against Norwich at home, for example. Please subscribe and like, guys. Dylan is one of the rare FPL YouTubers who replies to most of our queries. Thank you very much, Brian, for the shout out. And as he says, smash the like button and subscribe for new if you found this useful, if I've answered your question, or if you just enjoy the content. But obviously, very much appreciate everyone who decided to tune in today. James, Alonso, Cancelo. Definitely between Cancelo and James. I would probably go with Cancelo because of the fixtures. But James, I mean, if you can, get Cancelo and James. In terms of who to start as well, the same can apply as well. Play Antonio or bench him. It depends who you would be playing him for, away saying. But there's nothing wrong with playing him. He did well last season. I think he scored at the Etihad. Didn't get anything extra, just I think 6 points or whatever, but that's better than blanking. Christensen or White to start? I would start White in that case, Robert. Thoughts on my team and what you would change, says Kobe. Yeah, so on your bench you have Gaeta, Rudiger, Antonio, Livramento. In terms of your starting 11, the only possible change I would make, and even then you don't have to, is maybe Rudiger in for one of Hwang or Cornet, or even Gallagher. But other than that, I think I agree with your bench and your bench order. And in terms of what I would change long term, I think your defense is pretty settled. I like it a lot. if you ever have a spare free transfer and Alonso is looking very promising going forward, you could do Rudiger to Alonso, but that's not really necessary. That's a luxury transfer. Your midfield is pretty set, to be honest. You don't have to make a move there. But if, for example, Jota continues to do well, he's nailed, which he is at the moment, you could find a way to maybe get him in. I think the main concern with you is Game Week 14. Get rid of Hwang and maybe get Josh King or Benteke. That's what I'd be looking for your teammate. Is it worth taking a -4 for Chilwell to James? Definitely, Oscar. I think it's worth it. Yeah, Matthew, I already read out your team already, and I offered my thoughts. So yeah, I'm not sure what you're on about there. My thoughts, hopefully you're still here and you got this. I like your goalkeepers. Your defense is good as well. Yeah, in terms of ways to change this. At this moment in time, you don't have to do anything. I think Mbeumo's the only one I'd get rid of. You've already got Gallagher, don't you? Yeah, you've already got Gallagher. So I think Mbeumo to, if you have enough money, a Jared Bowen or a Cornet, I think that's where I would go. Or if not, you can actually potentially, although I probably wouldn't do this, but you could potentially downgrade Mbeumo and then upgrade one of your strikers. But yeah, honestly, you don't have to do that. But I think Mbeumo is the main guy I'd be looking to get rid of. The rest is fine. Isn't Marcel due to play as he's back from injury? True, that is true, but the thing is, Aït-Nouri has been good in recent weeks, and I don't see a need for him to be benched by Bruno Lage. Also, Marcel is just not a natural left wing back. Am I overthinking starting Duffy over Antonio? I can see why you're doing that. I probably would start Antonio instead, but that's just my personal opinion. Tony, Armstrong, Hwang, who should I give up? Right now, Armstrong, and in 2 game weeks' time, get rid of Hwang, John Petta. So Armstrong this week can be you could get Benteke in for Armstrong, and in a few weeks do Hwang to King. I think that could be good. Oh no, I just did it. Hwang to King. Fuck's sake. Could Koppel be an option to Smith Rowe? I think the latter's not consistent enough. Maybe Odegaard or Norman is an option as well. Who's Koppel? But yeah, in terms of Smith Rowe, I could understand that. I think his underlying numbers aren't really sustainable, and I'd be looking to get Gallagher for sure if you don't have him already. Then, of course, the kind of usual suspects, Cornet, Bowen, etc. Start Jimenez and Hwang or Jimenez and Dennis? Jimenez and Hwang, mate. Even though Dennis can do well. Will Broca ever start again? Yeah, he will start again. I'm just not sure when that will be. And is Armstrong very consistent? I think Armstrong's a good option. It's just the fixtures are kind of mixed now for Southampton, so I'd probably look to sell. But I think he will keep his spot. He's been very impressive for Southampton recently. Reagan or Mitchell? Because of the structure in your team, I'd say Mitchell, but I do like Reagan. Reagan looking like a good pick, yeah. Around that kind of mid-price bracket, if you want someone, around that price, definitely I'd go for him. Took out Tony and Rafinha for Benteke and Jota. Thoughts? Did it early and now Foden is out. Fair enough. I think Tony and Rafinha are good options this week, so I probably would have saved that for next week, or in Rafinha's case, 3 game weeks time. Start 2 from Mbeumo, Hwang, Foden. I'd start Foden and probably Mbeumo, I guess, but I'm not too sure about that one. It's 50-50. Would you do Bernardo to Jota or Chilwell to Alonzo? Probably Bernardo to Jota and then do Chilwell to Alonzo next week. Gallagher or Højbjerg for this game week? Gallagher, no doubt about it, and every week. Start Saint-Maximin or Antonio? I'd start Saint-Maximin. What was all that going around on Twitter about the Liverpool match possibly being postponed because of weather conditions? Yeah, so there was an article, and it was basically stated that there's going to be a storm coming to the Liverpool area, but I don't think it necessarily specifies Liverpool, the city itself, so Anfield could be safe from that. But it is a possibility. You've got to take that in mind, and that's why, just in general, really, you don't want to vice-captain the same player or from the same team as your captain. So, for example, Salah captain, Trent vice. Don't do it this week, just in case. Maybe vice-captain Vardy or someone else. What about Foden? He's a good option, of course, but he could actually not start this week, and he's been doing individual training. Pep said he's doing much better, but he was kind of vague. He didn't really give much away. He didn't really say if he's going to start or not, or if he has a good chance of starting. Did you go Chilwell to Alonso? Well, what you see on screen, yes, it would be Chilwell to Alonso, but I am considering maybe not doing that and going for a cheaper defender instead. And that will give me enough money to get Jota in midfield and also keep Foden potentially. Does it make sense to hold Foden? I think it does, but at the same time, it also makes sense to sell. I don't want to sit on the fence here. I'm not trying to, just say everything is right, but I think Foden, even if he misses this game week, he's a good option for the next 5-10 game weeks, really. with those fixtures for City. And his stats are actually far superior to Jota from Game Week 9 onwards, if you believe it or not. And even from Game Week 7, since Foden's come into the team, better stats. He's just been a bit unlucky in recent game weeks not to haul. Gray or Allen first on my bench? Well, both of them are injury doubts, Connor. I think Gray is pretty much ruled out this week. I just put Gray instead because he's got more attacking potential, but I don't really expect him to start. And Allen is also could miss out. Would you hold Tierney? I'd sell him, Stephen. For drafts, is Mora or Højbjerg a good option? Probably Mora, but in Sky Fantasy, Højbjerg is a very good option in that, of course, because of tackle tiers and whatnot. Is Greenwood an option again? He was great early season. Potentially, I think he's a decent one, but I wouldn't be bringing him in right now, and he's facing Chelsea next, so not really someone I'm thinking about. We have 3 games in 7 days. Looking at your team, who is a rotation risk, Foden is not risked according to Pep today. Vardy may be rested midweek. Fair enough. I think the thing with Vardy, though, is that I wouldn't want to sell him ahead of Watford. So he's someone I could get rid of next week or in the weeks to come. So, yeah. But I do agree. You want to kind of address the weaknesses. Towns is a weakness. And Foden, with an injury doubt lingering, he is a weakness because he's an injury doubt, potentially. So I am thinking of maybe just getting Alonso in for Ben Chilwell, and then Jota will come in for Foden. But we'll wait and see. I've not fully decided on my transfers yet. Lamdi versus Cancelo, who to start? Cancelo all day long, mate. Would you transfer out Tony for Benteke? Not this week. I think Tony's a good option this week. I have Rafinha, Salah, Sancho, Gallagher midfield. That's a good midfield. I'm not too sure about Sancho right now, Jeremy, but the rest, it looks really good. Mbeumo's going to score. We're all going to regret selling him. I'm not too surprised if that happens. I think Everton are very poor defensively. They've got a lot of injuries. Mina, I think, is out. Also, of course, Calvert-Lewin is still out. Also, Richarlison suspended. Gray, Allen. There's a lot of injury doubts there. Doucouré could be back. But even if he is actually starting, is he going to be fully fit? That's another question in itself. I'm stuck with Ronaldo, thinking of making a triple hit to get Jota and Cancelo. Is it reasonable? Says Tim. A triple hit? Jesus Christ. I mean, those players you're getting in are good, and they're there for the long term. So I think they're worth it, ultimately. But yeah, getting rid of Ronaldo, especially for a triple hit, as you put it, it can always backfire. I would maybe just get 1 hit or 2 rather than a triple hit and get in. I probably would say Jota this week, but Cancelo long term is definitely a really good option. Who would you start, Rudiger or Mbeumo? If you already have James, I would start Mbeumo. Otherwise, I'd start Rudiger. But of course, that can backfire either way. I think both of them could be in for a haul. Is it worth keeping Livramento? I think it is worth keeping him, but if you already have like a spare free transfer, you can move him onto a Lamdi, for example. Is Benteke nailed? I talked about this in my preview. He's not completely nailed. He's going to be benched on the odd occasion, especially with Edouard fully fit, which he wasn't, by the way, last week, which is why he was benched. But he's going to play the majority of games or start them, and he's in great form right now. Tierney to Alonso for free? Definitely DP, definitely. Classic Huang combo, says Callum. Yeah. When should we sell Vardy? Either next week or in 4 game weeks' time. So just to kind of put an immediate or a clear time frame on that. Game week 17 against Tottenham. Even though he can do well against them, of course, and even Everton and Man City, that's when you'd look to get rid. So I probably would say realistically 17 is probably the way to get rid of him. Or, I mean, then again, good fixtures against Norwich and Burnley, but, has to face City and Liverpool in the meantime as well. But yeah, I'd probably say game week 17, that's when Ronaldo has great fixtures, and Harry Kane has some good ones as well. So I'd say game week 17 is probably the best one if you still have him. Foden or Cornet? If Foden is fit, I'd still rather have him. Sarr injured, get Gallagher or Cornet from -4? I like Cornet a lot, but mate, I would honestly just get Gallagher. I think long term he's the better option. Adam, and would you take a -4? I probably would, yeah. Start Mbeumo or Tony? I'd start Tony Cole. Laporte or Reagan? Reagan definitely, no doubt about it. Luca Digne has lost his potential with... is it worth taking a -4 to play and save some money? Aja. Let's try to get this back up. Yeah, I would just get rid of Digne anyway. I think it's just a definite sell. I had him, I think, in one of my first drafts of the season, and I looked at how they were playing in pre-season. I was just not impressed by them. I would just get rid of him for a hit, and I'd look to get in a James, Trent, Cancelo if you don't have them already, and if you have them, get a Rudiger, Alonso, or a cheaper option like Lamdi. Welcome, Crystal Famoso. Went Chilwell to Trent. Yeah, that's a good move, mate. I would have done the same if I didn't have Trent. You need the differential for me in the new room 2 weeks. I am bringing in Chalobah and Doucouré if he looks good. Yeah, the Courier could be a nice option, but yeah, I can understand the Chalobah one, but he's just not going to play all the games. That's the way I see it. And Alonso is a differential. That's why I think he could be a good option for my team. Of course, he's not going to be a differential for long. So shall we bench Foden? You can bench him, yeah. That's the thing. You don't have to start him. And if not, you can just sell him. I think that would make sense. I accidentally transferred Neves from Wolves, so I had to do a -4. Jesus, yeah, that's not ideal. Always be careful when you're on the transfer page because anything can happen. So if you're, just for example, you're kind of like cleaning your laptop or something, I would not do that on the transfer page. Mate, get Reagan for Chilwell. Honestly, I would rather just downgrade to a cheaper defender, or if not, get Alonso or Rudiger instead. But Reagan is a good option. Phil Foden won't play. Yeah, I think you said this already before, potentially. I suggest you don't go for Alonso first. Chelsea fixtures not that ideal either. Yeah, they're not, but they've got good fixtures in the long term. Not good fixtures in the long term, sorry. Alonso's got that attacking potential, and Chelsea are fixture-proof in my opinion. But I do agree, the fixtures aren't particularly great if we actually look at them right now. Nothing special. Man United at home, Watford away, West Ham away, Leeds at home, Everton at home. Yeah, as you can see here, no greens, really. Only 2 greens in how many game weeks? In what, 14, 15 game weeks? It's very poor, actually. But I think some of these greys are actually greens, if you know what I mean, for Chelsea. Because I think Everton at home is a green for Chelsea. I think they could do very well there. Wolves away is not that easy, so I think I agree with the 3 there. Brighton at home, I would argue that's a green. Even Arsenal or Tottenham at home, I mean, yeah, I can see why they're a 3, but they could arguably be a 2 on the FDR. Palace away is still a good fixture for them. Even Leicester at home is a pretty good fixture, but I agree. The fixtures aren't great, so yeah, this could be a time to kind of go away from the big at the back defence and kind of redistribute your funds elsewhere. Thank you, Connor. Could the new manager of Man United make it logical to sell Salah and bring in Rashford or Greenwood? No, Hugo. I don't know why I keep mentioning selling Salah. Don't sell Salah. Only sell him when we get to the AFCON period where he's going to miss games, and that's when you can sell him for, of course, Jota if you don't have him already, and maybe Bruno Fernandes and all these other options, Heung-min Son. Don't sell Salah right now, especially for Greenwood or Rashford, who are just nowhere near that level. Thoughts on Sterling and Jesus hitting that purple patch form? Yeah, Sterling's showing a bit of form. Jesus, he does well when he plays, but yeah, for me, once again, I think there are better options elsewhere. Mane, Bruno Fernandes, Son, and of course all the other options I keep talking about, Diego Jota, and for Jesus, the same there. So I wouldn't go there at the moment. Benteke, Tony, Hwang, who to start? I would start Tony if you had to start one. Where do you think Jorginho will finish in the Ballon d'Or ranking? I think in the top 5. I think it'll be either Messi or Lewandowski winning it. And based on what journalists are saying, it looks like Messi's won it. I think Benzema actually could be in the top 3. And then the other kind of top 5 player would be Salah. I think if Kante hadn't have got injured, and he's been injured pretty much all year, he would be in and amongst the top 5. But yeah, I think it has to be Messi or Lewandowski winning it, and Jorginho will be probably 4th or 5th. And if I had to pick, I'd say 5th. Even though in terms of trophies, he's had the more impressive haul there. Not necessary to play back 4 again. Things could change, but I could be wrong. Yeah, it's not necessary, of course. It never was necessary, but of course, with Chilwell, it was just looked like the right thing to do. But the thing is, let's put it this way. If Chilwell was still fit, would you have gotten rid of Chilwell because Chelsea had some poor fixtures and just kept Reece James? You probably would have just kept Chilwell. I think Alonso, maybe he won't get as many attacking returns, but he will be quite close. Let's remember, Alonso does very well as a left wing back. So I can see why some people are hesitant on Alonso, but I don't really think there's a huge difference between him and Chilwell from an FPL point of view when they both start. Good luck this week, Dylan. Thanks for answering all the questions. Thank you, Maelstrom. Good luck to you as well. And also when you wildcard. Stream on till what time? It depends really, but yeah, we're getting through all these questions. Within the next hour or so, we'll be wrapping up because we've been going on for quite a while and my voice is pretty much gone anyway. And we've gotten through a lot of questions. A lot of the questions now coming up are going to be quite similar to those I've answered already. Salam, speaking of the devil, yeah. Foden to Jota. I've answered this question already. I think it's worth it making the transfer, especially for free, because Foden might not play this week. Gallagher and Mbeumo, definitely Gallagher. In terms of this week specifically, I would say Mbeumo, but overall, definitely Gallagher. Jota for Rafinha for a hit? No, mate. I've said this before. Foden for Son, Gallagher -4, or start Foden on the bench, Antonio to cover. I probably would say, if you can afford it, Foden to Son, but then reconsider. Do you want to have Kane up front, potentially? So let's wait and see. Ings or Dennis? This game week, I would say Danny Ings. Thank you, Alpha. Yeah, no need to spam the chat. Start Gaeta or Ramsdale? Yeah, definitely Ramsdale, Kobe. Mustafa says Kane, Arnold, Cancelo, James is captain this week. Not Salah, Mustafa, but yeah, if not Salah, it has to be Arnold, and vice captain would be either Reece James or Kane for me. Of course, Cancelo could do well against West Ham regardless. Oh, you have Salah, but I am 2.7 million. Okay, yeah. So there's always this kind of thing where if you're doing really poorly, you have to go for the differentials, and you have to pretty much always go for, the kind of big captaincy and everything. But then again, that could also just make the gap between you and the top million or the top 100k even bigger. So you've got to think of it from that perspective. You can always have Salah as your captain, as that safety net. That can still boost you up the ranks, believe it or not. And you can also have these differentials like Cornet in your team, and that is what is going to set you apart from the rest. So that's just my opinion on it. Even if, let's say, for example, I was around a million, I would probably still captain Salah. And if not, if I thought, I want to go for a differential captain, I'd go for a Trent, a Jamie Vardy maybe in, my case. But you don't have to, go away from Salah. That's my opinion. Start Mbeumo or Alonso. If Alonso is your only Chelsea cover in defence, I would start Alonso. Otherwise, if you have James, I'd just start Mbeumo. Start Antonio or Dennis, I'd start Antonio probably. Foden to Jota worth a -4. I've talked about this already. I think it is worth already a -4, but since you've already taken a hit, bet Livramento to cover on your bench, not really too happy with that, but yeah, I probably would just stick to that, Harry. Thank you, John. King or Jesus? This week, Jesus. Are we sure Foden won't play? If so, I'll probably be taking a -4 for Jota, who went up in price. We're not sure, mate, because Pep just wasn't clarifying anything, but I believe he won't start. That's just my opinion on it. Start White or Wilson? I'd start White. But if you already have Ramsdale, it's a bit risky having double Arsenal defence against a pretty decent Eddie Howe attack. Eddie Howe, he has already made a difference there. I think he's just his focus is on attacking and scoring goals. So I'm not really too sure about an Arsenal clean sheet, but I probably would go over White. Would you sell Salah and Afcon or just hold on? I'd probably sell him because he's going to be out for a few game weeks at least. So, having someone like that on your bench, it just kind of limits the rest of your team. Triple captain Salah this week, and do I go Ederson, Diaz and Cancelo triple up? I probably wouldn't, Neo, especially if, for example, the storm actually hits Liverpool and the game is called off. Of course, then you could have a nice vice captaincy, but I probably wouldn't do that. Trent is outstanding but expensive. -4 to Diaz, says Hugo. To be honest, I still would. I think it's worth doing a -4 from Diaz to Trent. I think it's worth it. It can only backfire this week because Trent, maybe the game is called off or something, but I don't think that will be the case. I'm doing all of my transfers to bring Ronaldo in week 16, but I am wondering how much he will play with the new manager. It's not necessarily just that, Frederick. It's also the fact that Ronaldo's 36 years old, and will he play every 3 or 4 days, especially when, for example, the FA Cup comes into the mix around January. Then you have the Champions League around February. Obviously, we're mainly looking at December, January at the moment, but I agree with you. But it's not just because of Ranić, it's because of him being 36 years old and realistically can't play every 3 games. Thank you very much to the Galactic Hobbit for becoming a differential. Very much appreciated, mate. And same with the other member earlier on. It's very much appreciated. Kenny was the other one. 2 differentials now in the channel, and you can sign up. The link is in the description below. I put a description on the kind of benefits you get as a member, and really it's just to support the channel even further. And if you have any ideas, I always encourage members to kind of have direct feedback and influence on things that happen in this channel, such as video ideas and also just other ways to interact with the community. So thank you very much to the Galactic Hobbit. Very much appreciated for becoming a differential. Let me try to get through some questions that I kind of missed out on. But we've been going through quite a lot. Trent or Son captain? I probably would say Trent, Khalid. Will you be rooting for England or Argentina and Qatar? Definitely Argentina. I'll be honest, I don't support England in World Cup or in terms of internationals. My entire family are pretty much from Argentina, so yeah, I support them. And I pretty much speak at home. But obviously, maybe I don't hate England as much as others do, but because that rivalry exists between Argentina and England, I do pick Argentina's side, just to kind of give you an insight there. Hey Dylan, what's up? Should I start Foden or White? I would start Foden just in case Kai Havertz, but of course it could backfire if he comes on for a 1-pointer. Brilliant stream. You answered the questions. Says Hugo, yeah, well, the thing is with other streamers, they do have a lot of views as well. And, some people do enjoy that sort of content where, the content creator is focusing on their own team specifically. But I've already talked about my team in all of my videos. And, this stream, I want to answer as many questions as possible. And of course, it is easier right now. But when the chat is like literally just absolutely, being swarmed, it is very difficult to keep up and answer every single question, especially giving detailed answers. But of course, thank you very much for your comment. Very much appreciated, mate. I read today Benzema got second and Lewandowski third. Exactly, Goldhead. I think it was a guy called Matteo. He's a Sky Sports Italia journalist. Apparently, he's very reliable. I don't think Lewandowski or Benzema should finish above Lewandowski. Now, in terms of up until this point, you could argue Lewandowski has been better than Messi. Now that, I think any one of them would be deserving winners. But I just think that Messi, this is just my opinion by the way, you don't have to agree. I think Messi is held to different standards because, for example, in 2018, he had the most goal contributions and the most goals. He was the top scorer. I think he had the Golden Boot. He won the La Liga, everything like that. 90 goals and assists in 2018, and he finished 5th in the Ballon d'Or rankings, which is absolutely absurd. He should have finished at least 2nd, and it should have been him or Ronaldo winning the Ballon d'Or. And this year, I mean, it's kind of similar with Lewandowski. Obviously, he could break some records, even some records that have stood since Ronaldo. But yeah, honestly, look, Lewandowski should be 2nd, and it shouldn't be Benzema. I think Benzema should be either 3rd or 4th. And let's put it this way. Trophies play a big part in the Ballon d'Or. What has Benzema won this year? Just the Nations League, and honestly, it's pretty much a friendly competition, if we're being honest. Didn't win anything with Madrid. Of course, he was a big part in, putting them in the title race in La Liga, and he did carry them to the semi-finals, or at least play a big part in putting them into the semi-finals of the Champions League. But for me, has to be Messi or Lewandowski winning the Ballon d'Or, and it will be one of them. I don't see how Lewandowski could finish 3rd and Benzema 2nd, and the same would go for Messi if he were to finish 3rd. Play Antonio or Aspi. I don't think Aspi will start, to be honest, but just in case, actually, that's the thing. Will he come on from the bench? I would play Antonio. Mata in for Harrison. New manager could benefit Mata again. No, not for me. Not for me, Hugo. I don't think Mata has a chance, really. He's not even a United player anymore, is he? It's Van der Beek or Bruno Fernandes in that attacking role. How do you do in UCL Fantasy? Pretty poorly. I was expecting it around 50 points, and I got a significant red arrow to around 1,000, 2,000 in the world. I was, aiming for the top 500. I was around 567 before. But yeah, had too many problems. But now I've got free transfers heading into match day 6, so maybe I've got an advantage over other managers. Foden to Jota for a hit. Once again, any questions about Foden to Jota, especially for a hit? Look, for a hit, it is worth it still. But for a free transfer, it just makes more sense now because Foden is an injury doubt. But otherwise, I think it just makes sense to keep Foden. That's just my opinion on it. But, it's up to you what you do there. I think Foden is worth holding, but at the same time, Jota is a worthy purchase, to be honest. Start 1, Mbeumo or Tony? Tony, I said this before, Nick. Who's got a higher ceiling than Salah for captaincy this week? I'm not sure who's got a higher ceiling than him, but other players who have a high ceiling, Vardy and Trent Alexander-Arnold. A bit late to the stream, Dylan. Have been a bit busy tonight. Let's hope we have a good game week this weekend. Thank you very much to the Galactic Hobbit, and yeah, good luck to you as well. Hopefully it is a good game week, and then in 3 days' time we've got another game week, so no breaks. And thank you very much for signing up as a differential. Very much appreciated, mate. Trossard or Smith Rowe? This game week definitely Smith Rowe, and I probably would rather have him long term. Have you thought about setting up a Discord server? It's already set up, Goldhead. The link is in the description below. I've already set up a Discord server. I also put it in the community tab, and yeah, I'm also looking to maybe change some things up there. And also for members, for any members that are here right now, if you sign up to Discord, I will add you to a kind of members-only chat, and that's where we will be. You can have a direct influence, for example, on things that happen on my YouTube channel, and for example, what time you stream at, or also what type of content you do. For example, because we have such a quick turnaround of game weeks, maybe what I'm going to do is perhaps maybe leave the previews to a side for now, but of course I can rely on your input to be able to make the best decisions. City will have a fantastic fixture on in a few games. Should Kyle Walker be on par? Yeah, Kyle Walker's a good option, Hugo, and you can double up with Cancelo and Walker, or Diaz, of course. That's why I was talking about Diaz recently, saying he's a hold. Obviously, I don't like the fact that he's always benched after an international break, but we don't really have an international break concerning Europeans up until March. So that's fine. Yeah, Kenny, I've already set up a Discord, like I said before. So yeah, you can join the Discord. It's in the description below, and yeah, it's all set up already. Italy to knock out Portugal. Yeah, I think it is possible. To be honest, they have the better team at the moment, but Portugal do have the better players, I'd say. But yeah, one of them's going to be missing out, which is crazy. That would be the final of the kind of playoff. I mean, it's crazy, to be honest. If they hadn't have changed that format, chances are they both would have qualified for the World Cup. Would you start Gallagher or Tony? I'd start Tony this week. I have Jota, Gallagher and Rafinha. Do I take Foden out for Cornet? I'd keep Foden in your situation, mate. Antonio to Benteke to free up some money, or go to Alonso from 3.9. Oh, that's tough. Yeah, I probably would do that. Antonio to Benteke and get Alonso from a 3.9 million defender, mate. That's what I would do in your situation. Let me try get through the other questions I missed out. Do you follow NBA? I don't, mate. The only time I really watch basketball is when the Olympics is on and watching, my country play. But other than that, no. Should I take a -4 to get Alonso in this week? It depends who for and Schumann, but I think it is still a worthy hit in the long run. But if not, just hold off and get Alonso next week against Watford. Dylan, are you going to Qatar? Probably not. And to be honest, I don't like the fact that it is being hosted in Qatar and the way, they built the stadiums and everything. To be honest, obviously I would love Argentina to win the World Cup regardless, because the competition is going to be played regardless. And I would love to go to a World Cup anyways, but at this moment in time, I'm not really, feeling too sure about that. Start Rudiger, Dennis or Tony? I'd start Tony, mate. Play Rafinha and Mbumo, Rafinha. Oh, okay, fair enough, Jack. Yeah, but he's not really getting a look in. Yeah, he played in the Carabao Cup, didn't he, against West Ham? That's the last time I've seen him, but he's not really going to be an option, is he? Start 2, Mbumo, Rafinha, Rodrigo. Once again, it'd have to be Rafinha and Mbumo for me. Kenny says, I like the stream because of how you take the time to put thought in every question. It's the only stream I follow, although I have an ass in my mini league that straight up copies a major YouTuber and is top. Yeah, thank you very much, Kenny. And once again, the more views and chats that there are, or comments in the live chat, it becomes more difficult to answer every question. But I do try. And there are other channels, by the way, who do put time into reading every single comment. Obviously, some people do get frustrated with that because, they might spam the chat or whatever they want, their question answered as soon as possible. But obviously, you want to go for as many as possible and get everyone's questions and comments sorted. But thank you very much, Kenny. Very much appreciated. And yeah, I'm not surprised. A lot of people do copy YouTubes. For example, in UCL Fantasy, I've seen some people copy my teams, for example, and it just happens. It is what it is. But yeah, I can imagine it's, on a much larger scale when, a YouTuber has so many subscribers and views. So yeah, it's kind of inevitable at this point. I'm going to captain Reece James Thoughts. I think he's a decent option this week, but I probably wouldn't. I think Man United could score. And I would rather captain Salah, Trent, Vardy. Who to transfer in for Benrahma and Antonio, or just transfer one? Got 1.3 million in the bank. Benrahma. I'd rather keep Antonio and sell Benrahma, Tiki. And you've got 1.3 million in the bank. Get Jota, definitely. When is the earliest game week? I'm not sure what you mean by that, but there's going to be another game week on Tuesday, actually, mate. Is this week a double game week? It isn't, mate. It isn't a double. On Sky Fantasy Football, it will be a double, but not here. Is the Christmas period a double game week? No, no, Nathan, or should I say Nahian? It's not a double game week. It's just going to be separate. So on the Tuesday, that will be the kind of cut-off point, and that will be game week 14. Start Keane or Lamdi? I'd start Lamdi. Same, bro. In UCR, I took out Ronaldo for Anthony. Yeah, it is what it is. It can backfire sometimes, and Ronaldo. Yeah, I mean, he's been doing really well in the Champions League. Is it really worth getting Jota in, considering his minutes risk and Firmino possibly being back earlier? That's a good point you make there, Caleb, but also you have to consider the fact that African Cup of Nations comes around January and Jota will be nailed then. So I think he's just a good option for the long term. Get Jota, says Lan, fair enough. Yeah, West Ham would be a walk in the park for City anyway. Yeah, it could be a really tough game for them, although you would expect City to win. It's not that clear cut. Start Lamdi or Gallagher? I'd start Gallagher, Weiseng. Morning, Dylan, says Scared Cow. I wonder, morning to you as well. I wonder which part of the world you come from, because right here, it's 9 o'clock in the evening here. Can Sancho be an option? Says Hugo. Yeah, I mentioned this before, and that's a good point, because obviously Rangnick, he's actually had an input or influence on Jurgen Klopp, and of course he played that football with Borussia Dortmund, and same with Thomas Tuchel as well at Borussia Dortmund. You make a good point there, and I think Sancho could be a really good option, but once again, yes, in FPL you want to be ahead of the curve and make these transfers earlier than most, but I just think with Sancho, let's wait and see. He's shown some signs of, revitalization, but I wouldn't be getting him in yet. And also, the reason why I'm not too keen on Sancho is because you've got Bruno Fernandes, you've got Mane, you've got Son, and of course, looking cheap, you've got Diego Jota right now, who's looking exceptional, Bernardo Silva, Foden, and then of course Gallagher, and all these other options I keep talking about. Are you planning to grow the beard again? To be honest, I'm not really a big fan of, growing beards or whatever. It just happens, and I'm just leaving it, to be honest. I don't want to be shaving every few days or so it's just literally there. So yeah, you'll probably see a beard again. It's not really anything special regardless. And in terms of like the full beard, I don't really have the full beard. It's just pretty much, the sides and whatever. Anyway, enough about beards. And actually, I've kind of done the opposite. I shaved during November. It's supposed to be Movember, but it is what it is. Take a hit and get Diaz out for Alonso. I just keep Diaz for now, Vinp, and then maybe get Alonso in next week or later on. Do you think Alonso can haul against United? Definitely, Adam, but I don't think it's worth taking a hit for him, especially when you have a decent defender in your ranks already. How do you watch a World Cup match in Qatar, Dylan? In terms of I think he was asking am I going to Qatar to actually watch the games there in the stadiums? But I'll just be watching it through TV in the UK. You are humble as well. Nice, and congratulations. Thank you, Hugo. Very much appreciated. But yeah, obviously the main thing with this channel and everything is interacting with the community and talking football. So obviously it's very much appreciated that there is an audience and that people want to watch. And obviously thank you very much to everyone who's been tuning in. Bench Foden, I have a massive benching headache. Let me know what the benching headache is, man, John. But I think the reason why, if I kept Foden, if I do keep him in the end, I would want to actually start him is because if he does actually, play against West Ham, I think he could do pretty decent. I wouldn't want to watch Man City with Foden in the lineup, with him on my bench. Great stuff, Dylan. Shame because he did a number on you. Thought you were smashing Movember. yeah, that's true. No problem, Hobbit. Is Game Week 13 and 14 double game week? Sorry, I still don't understand. Can we still do a transfer before Game Week 14? So just to make this clear, because I'm seeing a lot of people mentioning this Christmas period thing. So let's look at the fixtures. So right now, Game Week 13, as you can see, there's 5 games on the Saturday and 5 games on the Sunday. So after the Sunday, we've got a day break on Monday, and then on the Tuesday, that is when Game Week 14 begins. The first game will be Newcastle against Norwich, so there's not going to be any double game weeks here. As you can see, for Game Week 14, the games are stretched across 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. And then we look towards Game Week 15, once again stretched to 3 days, but there's a cut-off point. Game Week 15 starts on Saturday, the 4th of December. But basically, if you actually check the FPL website, it makes it all clear for you, but there's no double game weeks at the moment. The double game weeks will come maybe in a month's time or so, especially with Chelsea, playing in the Club World Cup. That will cause a blank game week for Chelsea and their respective opponents, and that means they will have a double game week against that opponent later on in the calendar. So just to make that clear, there are no double game weeks at the moment, despite the fact we have games pretty much. We've got 2 set of games within a week, but there's no double game week, mate. So you can still make transfers, basically, in terms of answering your question about when you can make transfers. So tomorrow, when the deadline passes at 11 a.m. GMT or UK time on the Saturday, from that point onwards, you can make transfers up until the next deadline on the Tuesday, the 30th of November, and that will be 6 o'clock UK time because the game is on at 7:30. So just bear that in mind. You can make transfers from tomorrow onwards up until the Tuesday evening, if we were talking about the UK, of course. So hopefully that has cleared things up for you. Let me know if you've got any more problems. 5 a.m. in Malaysia. Yeah, it's crazy way of saying, and obviously very much appreciate that you always tune in. When is it a good time to consider Lukaku? Well, if we actually look at the fixtures for Chelsea, they're not great, to be honest, but I probably would say Game Week 14, if not Game Week 16. But because Chelsea do play Man United and West Ham over the next 3, and also Lukaku is a doubt to start in Game Week 13 anyway, because he could just be kind of rested and well prepped for Game Week 14 instead. I would just wait for that, Game Week 14 or 16 instead. And also we've got Ronaldo and Kane as well to contend with, so it's not really an easy one, to be honest. Let's see. 8 a.m. here in Australia. Wow, yeah, that's crazy, Jose. And yeah, aren't you from Chile originally? But yeah, it's crazy, to be honest. Normally at 8 a.m. or 5 a.m. or all these kind of times, I'm sleeping probably, yeah. Are you planning to have any Spurs players in your team for the following game weeks? It was part of the plan, and I am still thinking about getting Harry Kane in, because I do want a placeholder for Cristiano Ronaldo potentially, or Romelu Lukaku up front. But at the moment, I am thinking of other moves, which, to be honest, kind of cuts me off from having a Spurs player. But I'm still open to the idea, but I'm not that settled on it, to be honest. What do you think the chances are the Liverpool game will be postponed tomorrow? It's a possibility, of course, but I'm a bit optimistic. I think it won't be called off. But if there is, if there is a storm in Liverpool, and I think that's when it will be a problem and the game will be called off. But let's wait and see, of course. Yeah, the stream is too late in my country. Yeah, that's why sometimes I try to do a morning stream in the UK, so that will kind of be a good time for you, maybe in the evening. But yeah, it's difficult to kind of cater to everyone. And most people, whenever I put like a poll out, they say they like it being at 7 p.m. GMT on the Friday. But yeah, hopefully in the future I can, try to cater to more people and different time zones. Foden or Antonio? Yeah, Foden, as Lan says. I'd probably rather start him, just in case. Hi Dylan, it's Tony. Love your content. What do you think about Vardy for Jimenez, or shall I leave it? Thank you very much for your question. Look, I love Jimenez for the next 2 game weeks, but I also love Vardy for the next 4, so I would keep Vardy and I wouldn't get rid of Vardy for Jimenez. Thank you very much for your question. Will you be transferring in Alonso or Rudiger for Chilwell? Probably Alonso. Michael, but if not, I am considering maybe downgrading, so maybe getting a Lamdi or just a cheap option like Johnson, and then upgrading my midfield and getting Jota and keeping Foden, but I'm kind of still debating that in my head. Most people are recommending in the poll today, in the chat, and also on the community tab on YouTube, they've been recommending to actually get Alonso and Jota in for Ben Chilwell and Phil Foden. Alonso and Jota in, I mean, it is in the title of my description, and my title, should I say, and I am thinking about doing that, to be honest. So let's wait and see. It's very likely that I'm going to be doing that. Still don't have Trent and made my transfer this week. Would you recommend Diaz and Tony to Trent and Krul for a -4? Krul and King. Do not get rid of Tony this week, especially for a hit. I think he could outscore King even. In terms of a hit, you know what, mate? I would actually just keep it this week, because if Trent does, if the game is postponed for Liverpool and you take a hit, I just think ultimately you lose in that situation. So I would just keep things as they are, and next week look to do Diaz to Trent, and then in 2 game weeks after that, get King in for Tony. So hopefully that answers your question, Krishna. So basically what I'm saying is Trent in for Diaz next week, and in 3 game weeks time, get King in for Tony. If you have to make that move, Tony to King, to facilitate Diaz to Trent, then just do it in 3 game weeks time. Diaz has some good fixtures anyway for City. Will Johnson add structure and support Aston Villa attackers as Ings with philosophy of Gerrard? I believe he plays a different game and could also join more with 3-3-4 and wing backs and supporting attack. Johnson, I apologise, mate. I'm not too sure what you mean about that. But support Aston Villa attackers. I've probably gotten something wrong there. There's probably something I should understand that I don't. Let me actually just search up Johnson and see what... yeah, but if you're on about Ben Johnson, yeah, that's West Ham, obviously. But yeah, apologies if I didn't really get that, to be honest. But yeah, in terms of Steven Gerrard, I think he could do a good job at Aston Villa, to be honest, yeah. Force on Kyle Walker, I want 4 at the back and already got Cancelo, Trent and Reece James. I would rather go for Alonso despite City have better fixtures, but Walker is a good option, and of course Diaz is still a good choice despite the fact that he does get benched, especially after international breaks. Noted with, thanks mate, thank you for explaining reason why you're one of my favourite YouTubers. Thank you very much, 7S, and that's a very nice name by the way, and thank you to everyone else who has tuned in today. And if you have any last questions and comments, let me know. I'll try to whiz through these, and we're pretty much at the end. We've answered so much today and we've gotten through most of the questions. Foden to Jota, yeah, once again, I think because of the injury doubt it makes sense. I'd probably do it. So when is the first double game week? I can't give you an exact time frame for that, Mohammed, but I'm guessing January or February is when the first double game week is going to happen, unless I am mistaken. But because, like I said before, Chelsea are going to have a blank game week because they are going to be featuring in the Club World Cup. That is when that game week will become a blank game week for them. So if you have any Chelsea assets, you also have to bear that in mind. So if you are, if you have a triple up on Chelsea, that is when a free hit could come in handy, or maybe just making transfers and getting rid of those Chelsea assets. But yeah, I'd say January or February is when the first double game week will be. Does anyone think that triple Chelsea defence makes sense for now? It does make sense, Jerome, and even from before, of course. But I would just rather go for 2, James and Rudiger, or James and he said Chilwell and Alonso. But with the fixtures, I just think 1 is enough. And of course, I would like a double up 2. I think a double up makes sense, but I wouldn't go for a triple up. I think it's too excessive, and you're relying too much on Chelsea keeping a clean sheet to really pay off. Oh, by the way, so meaning in between Game Week 14 and 15 we can still do transfer, right? Yeah, of course, 7 as you can. And same between Game Weeks 13 and 14, like I described earlier, and between 16, 17, 17, 18, etc. So whenever the deadline passes, up until the next deadline, you can make a transfer. Who to exchange for Benteke and save money? Antonio or Jesus? Thanks and good luck. I'd rather keep Antonio long term. Despite the fixtures, I would rather keep Antonio and sell Jesus, Martin. Do you think there will be a United resurgence after Rangnick joins United? We could be looking at players like Rashford and Sancho. Yeah, Kenny, I talked about this in my preview yesterday. I briefly talked about Rangnick, and I think Bruno and Ronaldo are just more appealing options. And as for those you mentioned, Rashford and Sancho, especially Sancho, I think he could be a good option in the weeks to come. With those fixtures from 15-16 onwards, you still have to consider United. And if they get that managerial bounce, which I think they will, I think they could actually be a really serious team and they could finish in the top 4. And this is where they make that run. They could even, close the gap to the top 3. I don't expect them to finish there. I think those 3 teams are on another level, but I think that they will do well. And those assets you mentioned, especially Sancho, could be very good. Start Gaito or Sanchez? I probably would start Sanchez, but I'm not too sure about that one, to be honest. Rather get Trent, Cancelo, 2 Chelsea defenders and Reagan. Yeah, fair enough, Len. Dylan, just want to say huge thanks for helping us and keep up the amazing work. Good luck. Thank you, Nia. Very much appreciate your kind words and good luck to you as well this week, and same with everyone else watching. The Flying Dutchman says, I'm contemplating whether or not to make one free transfer as my bench is currently Chilwell, Livramento and Brownhill, which wouldn't get me many points. But then again, if you already have a starting 11 which is kind of clear of doubts, then it's not really an issue. If, for example, though, you do have Foden and you're not too sure about him starting, that's when potentially you should make your free transfer. So maybe Foden to Jota, for example. During the double game week, does the bench boost function throughout game week 14 and 15? Yeah, once again, just to make this clear, game weeks 14 and 15 are separate. When we talk about double game week, that is when, let's say, for example, game week 23. That in game week 23 itself, you will see, when you look at the fixtures, Chelsea, for example, play Arsenal and then they play, let's say, for example, Norwich. Those 2 games will fall under the same game week 23, and that's when, if you play your bench boost, any of the points scored by your Chelsea players, they will count for both Arsenal and Norwich fixtures. But in terms of game weeks 14 and 15, those are 2 different game weeks. You can't bench boost in game week 14 and expect the points in game week 15 to also count to your bench boost in game week 14. It doesn't work like that. So hopefully that clears it up. Hwang, Dennis or Duffy, anyone to choose? Who should I go with? I would play Hwang this week, to be honest, mate. Sudhir. Time to have some sleep. See you in the next stream, mate. Thank you, Wei Seng. Thank you very much for staying up for so late, and good luck with the game week. In case the Liverpool match doesn't go through, yeah, that's a good point, the Flying Dutchman. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, in that case, I probably would maybe make a free transfer. So you could maybe, for example, do Chilwell to Alonso. Start Duffy or Canos? I would probably start Duffy. But then again, Canos could do all right. I mean, I've been back in the Brentford assets this week. Maybe it would make sense to start Canos. Is Hwang still a hold after these 2 game weeks? I got him at 5.5. Not for me, Ninja. I think he's a sell. I would probably move him on to King in 2 or 3 game weeks' time. And if not, Benteke. And if not, you can always upgrade him. Are you going to keep Antonio for the rest of the season? Not necessarily, Stefan, but it's just I've got other fires to put out. I still haven't even gotten Gallagher in yet for Townsend, who Townsend is just awful at the moment. So I've got other kind of problems to deal with. Otherwise, I would have considered Jimenez, for over the last few weeks and also going into the next 2. But yeah, I am going to be keeping him for now. Is he a season keeper? I'm not so sure. Ciao, Dylan. Thanks for the work. Thank you, Jose. Ciao to you as well. By benching headache, Foden, Benteke, Gallagher, Smith Rowe, Tony, Alonso, James. Okay, yeah, I can see what you mean. Don't bench James. No matter what you do, do not bench him. I would start Smith Rowe. I would start Tony. In terms of who to bench, probably Gallagher, actually. Maybe Gallagher or Alonso. And, I mean, I'm not sure if you have another player to bench, but maybe either Benteke or Smith Rowe. I probably would bench Benteke, Gallagher, and Alonso. In terms of, who I would bench the most is Gallagher, and I would probably try to fit in the rest. I'm not a big fan of double Chelsea, to be honest, never mind triple, just because I feel like having too many defenders. Yeah, true. And also, once again, they're going to have a blank game week very soon. So that is also something to think about. Benteke on the bench or Townsend? I would rather have Benteke over Townsend this week. Should I play Hwang? Once again, these Hwang or Joshua questions. I would rather play Hwang this week. Thank you, Dylan. I always enjoy listening and conversing with you. Love the stream. Good luck this game week, mate. Thank you very much, and good luck to you as well. And appreciate your kind words as always. Thoughts on Maddison with Tielemans out. Leicester. Maddison is Leicester's main man. Yeah, I mentioned him earlier. He had obviously a good game in the Europa League midweek. and I think he could do... He's that kind of differential that could do very well over the Christmas period. He did it last season around December, January, and I think he could do decent. But once again with Leicester, I'm only really looking at Vardy over the next 4, and even then, he's someone you're looking to sell in a few game weeks' time. So it's a difficult one because you can bring in Maddison now, but in 4 game weeks' time, it's probably a sell. Welcome, Aranya. Had to drop off, sorry. What do you think about Foden? I think Foden won't play this week. Obviously, I could be wrong, but he's been training with the group. He's been training individually, and Pep said he's in a much better place right now. He's doing much better, but he said the same last week. But yeah, he did also say if there is a risk, he's not going to risk it, and Foden will not play. But I don't think he will start potentially. Will Dubravka start? I mean, to be honest, there's been this kind of debate for multiple weeks now, and Darlow has continued to start. But I think once Dubravka is fully fit, he will start. And Darlow did let in a pretty easy goal against Tony. Start Rico Henry or Bowen? I'd start Rico Henry, Ninja. Lots of people taking hits this week. I'm over here rolling my transfer. Yeah, Adam, and that's why I'm happy to have 2 free transfers this week. It places you in a good position there. Thanks once again, mate. Heading to sleep now. 5 a.m. in Brunei. I've just butchered that name, haven't I? But yeah, thank you very much, mate. And 5 a.m. is crazy. Get that rest and good luck. Hopefully, when you wake up to some points. Raphael says, really appreciate the stream. Been listening for an hour and you just keep on giving advice. All my thoughts for your voice tomorrow. But thank you for the streams. Thank you very much, and appreciate the sentiment for my voice. And obviously, these are fun, time has gone by. It doesn't feel like it's gone, for 2 hours and a half almost. But yeah, very much appreciated. Wait, why is the Liverpool game being postponed? Just to make it clear, Christian, I didn't say the game was being postponed. I just said there's a possibility, and it was raised by some viewers in this chat because there is a storm potentially in Liverpool, and the weather conditions would be unplayable, for a football match. Start Townsend or take a hit to get Mora. Just keep Townsend. I wouldn't take a hit, especially to get Mora. If it was to take a hit for Gallagher or someone else, then maybe I'd be a bit more supportive of that, but not for me. I'm personally not of the opinion of getting Mora. I would like to get Son, Kane, Reagan, Emerson, 3 of those 4 players I mentioned. Yeah, not Mora for me. Yeah, then again, you would give me a benching headache. Would you play Alonso over Tony Hwang? Potentially, maybe Alonso over Hwang, but other than that, not really the Flying Dutchman, mate. Start Rudiger or Diaz? Tough one, isn't it? I probably would start Rudiger. Play Dennis or Antonio? I would probably play Dennis, actually, but I'm not too sure about that. Benching Antonio against against City, not an easy one, I mean, it is City, but Antonio has done well there in the past. Foden or Jota or Maddison? Right now, I have to say Jota because he's fully fit. Foden, on the other hand, he is an injured out. But in terms of ranking them, Jota first, Foden second, Maddison third. If they're all fit, that's when I would put Foden, on par with Jota, maybe even above him. I'm considering Antonio to King and Benrahma to Jota. Yeah, I can understand why. I think someone earlier said something similar. I think that looks good, to be honest. The only thing with King is that I would like to get him in 3 game weeks time rather than now, because he faces Leicester and Chelsea and Liverpool or City, something ridiculous like that. And honestly, I'm not really too... Oh no, it's not Liverpool, is it? It's City. I would honestly get King in, if anything, in 3 game weeks time and find another way to do Benrahma to Jota. What will happen if Liverpool match gets cancelled? Any Liverpool players you have, and the same goes for Southampton players, none of their points will count towards your score, and they will have a double game week in the future. Foden, Livramento, Antonio to Jota and Alonso, Benteke. Yeah, that looks good, to be honest. Yeah, that looks good, Corey. I'd probably do that. I've still got my wildcard, so I can move out of triple Chelsea defence rather easily in time for the Club World Cup. Yeah, just to kind of make it clear though, the Club World Cup I think happens in January, so that will be the second half of the season, and what that means is that will influence your second wildcard. So yeah, and if you still have your first wildcard, you have to use it before game week 18, I believe, before it resets. So it's not like you can actually hold your wildcard and have 2 wildcards heading into the second half of the season. Hopefully that makes sense. White to Alonso for a -4, worth it? I think it is worth it, but because he is facing Newcastle, I would probably just keep White, Joseph, to be honest. Who do you prefer, Bernardo Silva or Zaha? Bernardo Silva, definitely, the Galactic Hobbit. I'm going to vice-captain Vardy. I think that's a good vice-captaincy. I've got him as well. Do you play FIFA? Not so much recently, but... I mean, well, to be fair, in recent days I have been playing it. I've been playing, I think, Pro Clubs, for example. But in general, like in recent months, I haven't played it as much as I normally play FIFA or other games in general. But yeah, I do play it, mate. I'm in Liverpool right now and the winds are picking up. It feels like constant noise outside. Yeah, thank you for that update, Jerome. You're like the weatherman. Obviously, hopefully you don't take offense to that. There are some legendary weathermen out there. But anyway, yeah, it might not look good. That's why maybe the Jota move, Foden to Jota, maybe in the back of my mind I got a bit of a doubt about it. What happened in Liverpool? Once again, there's a storm brewing and it could influence the weekend and, it could make the conditions for the Liverpool-Southampton game unplayable and therefore the game would be called off. How many points do you predict your team to get? I don't know, to be honest. I'm hoping for 60 plus. Obviously, ideally, I'd want 70 plus, but I'm just going to be a bit more realistic and say 60 plus. What game week are you planning to get rid of Rafinha? I talked about this earlier, Sam, and I think game week 16, I think it is. Let me just double check. Yeah, I mean, look at those fixtures. Chelsea away, City away, Arsenal at home, Liverpool away, Villa at home, Burnley at home, West Ham away. I mean, look, just the fixtures up until you could say game week 29 are pretty poor, especially over that 5-game week period up until game week 20. And look at those 4 fixtures, by the way. Chelsea, City, Arsenal, Liverpool. I still think Rafinha is one of the best options around his price, but when you have Cornet, Smith Rowe, Gallagher, Jota, Bernardo Silva, I keep talking about these names, but they're quite worth mentioning. Bowen as well. It is really, I think that's the best time to get rid of him. Hi there, Mr. Stream. Do you think we should keep or sell Foden? I can put White or Mbeumo as first sub. Which one? To be honest, if you have Foden and you've got those options on the bench, you can just keep Foden for now, especially if the Liverpool game is called off. It is a bit risky to do Foden to Jota, but at the same time, if that wasn't really an issue, I would just do Foden to Jota. I think it makes sense. But yeah, I think White or Mbeumo are a good cover for you. And as for first sub, who would I put? I think White is less likely to blank, but Mbeumo is more likely to give you a bigger haul. It's a tough one, mate. I probably would say if you've got Ramsdale in your starting 11, I would put Mbeumo first sub. Otherwise, just White in your first sub. Whereas the Liverpool source, that game could be called off. Thought the storm was northeast. I'm not sure exactly, but there might be the Liverpool Echo that reported it, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's in the northeast. But I think in Liverpool, the storm is going from the northeast to Liverpool. Since you want Jota, why not Chilwell to Spurs fullback and upgrade Townsend or Rafinha? Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Raphael, and I have considered that too, but once again, I'm not convinced by Spurs' defence. I do think Reagan is the best option around 5 million, but I do prefer Alonso, or if not, just downgrading and changing my team structure slightly to accommodate those moves, but it's a good suggestion. I think Maddison might be a good pick. Yep, I think over the Christmas period he is, but long term, I'm not too sure. Dennis or Hwang? Next 2 game weeks, Hwang, and in 3 game weeks time, I'd say Dennis, but even better, I think is King. I think King is a better option than Dennis. I talked about this in the preview yesterday. If you haven't already checked that out as well, I cover a lot of these topics that have been, asked about in this stream, and also others. Talked about Man United and Ranić. I talked about Lukaku. I talked about Dennis versus King, a direct comparison, Reagan versus Alonso comparison, and much more. Chilwell to Alonso and Foden to Bernardo for a hit. I think it's worth it, Diego. Yeah, I think it is worth it, to be fair. Thank you very much, by the way, for the super chat by Kenny. Very much appreciated. And you also became a member today, so obviously, I'm blown away by the support. Thanks for doing this so patiently, Dylan. Feel like you answered an insane amount of questions today. Logging off now, catch you in the next stream. Thank you very much, mate. And like I said, you didn't have to send this super chat, but very much appreciated. And same with the becoming a member, the differential. So thank you very much, Kenny. And if you haven't already, joined the Discord, and the same goes for any members. I will add you to a members only chat, and you can have direct influence and communication with me to improve the channel further. Thank you very much, Kenny. I'll try to get through some last questions before wrapping up. I haven't eaten yet. I still haven't eaten dinner, so yeah, I'm going to be doing that very soon. Yeah, I knew that. I'm planning to play the wild card in game week 18 to jump on West Ham and triple up. Fair enough. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Just to make it clear, because that kind of caught me out when I first played FPL. But that's good to hear. And yeah, I think a triple up on West Ham, Ben Johnson, Bowen, and Antonio, for example, could be very good. Who do we captain? Salah, Vardy, or Gallagher? I wouldn't captain Gallagher. I would captain Salah or Vardy, and I probably would go for Salah with Vardy as the vice. Weatherman, lol. Yeah, like I said, hopefully you don't take offense to that. It's kind of a compliment, to be honest. Galactic Hobbit, you think you missed the Gallagher hype train? I think he's a good option long term, but I can see why. The immediate fixtures aren't great, but I can see why you think that. I still think he's a good option. Budget striker, Benteke right now, and I think in 3 game weeks time it has to be Joshua King. I talked about this in my preview. If you haven't already checked that out, definitely those two. Is Sancho worth considering as a differential for Man United's fixture swing? Yeah, I've answered this already, Adam. I think he is worth considering, but I wouldn't be bringing him in right now. It's a wait and see how he does over the next few, and around Game Week 16 when the fixtures turn, look to bring him in potentially, if not Bruno Fernandes or Cristiano Ronaldo. Play Antonio or bring in Alonso -4. I'd probably play Antonio, Cole. Hwang and Jimenez or Tony and Jimenez. They are playing against Norwich after all. Tony and Jimenez, I would rather have them. I think Tony's a better option long term than Hwang. 40k a storm, lol, just the odd gust. Anyway, dies down by 3 p.m. I hope you're right, Romel, hopefully. Smith Rowe or Townsend, I can bring one in. Definitely Smith Rowe, mate. Definitely, no doubt about it. Thanks for your live stream. Thank you, Mustafa, for tuning in, mate. And same with everyone else who's tuned in and also just brought in some questions and comments. Damn, there's still a lot of comments coming in, so very much appreciate to everyone. I'll try whiz through these as well before wrapping up. Budget forward to replace Antonio Hwang. Only for the next two, Anas. I would rather go for Benteke or King in 3 game weeks time. So if you're looking for someone now, Benteke. In 3 game weeks time, definitely King. Should I make a triple captain on Salah? I would probably not risk it because 1, I think there are better fixtures and times to play the triple captain. And 2, if the game is called off, the triple captaincy will be moved to your vice captain instead. Mbeumo to Jota or Chilwell to Alonso, or just keep my transfer. And just a concern, how many transfers can you hold? You can only hold, but basically you can only have 2 free transfers. You can't hold 3 transfers going into the next week. I would, in your situation, do Chilwell to Alonso because I think Mbeumo could do well this week, and then next week you can do Mbeumo to Jota. Azpilicueta to Alonso, I would probably do that. Okay, yep. Edison, Thiago Silva, White, Walker, Duffy, Gallagher, Salah, Son, Vardy, Tony, Dennis. Should I use my free transfer or not? I probably, you know what, I probably would. I think you are lacking a fullback like Trent, Cancelo or Reece James. If you can afford one of them, I would even move Thiago Silva to Reece James, Cancelo or Trent. That's what I would do, mate. Yeah, exactly, Lan. You can hold 2 free transfers. Start White versus Newcastle or Antonio. I'd start White, mate. That's what I would do. Should I bring in Smith Rowe or Townsend in? Smith Rowe, mate. I already answered this. That storm might hit my team hard, yeah. Same here, and I don't even have Jota. Discord, yeah, the link to the Discord is in the description below, so feel free to join. Good night all, wishing everyone green hours along the way. Thank you, Kenny, to you as well, and once again, thank you very much for the super chat and becoming a member. Very much appreciated as always. Jack says if only they could play the Liverpool game in Southampton instead. Yeah, that's actually a good idea, you know. Just a bit of change in logistics and stuff like that, but that would be, you know, a good shout. What is the problem in Liverpool? There is a storm brewing, and when we say a storm, a heavy storm, it's given a name as well. I don't know the exact name to be honest, but the playing conditions could be unplayable, and that would mean the game is suspended. Have 2 free transfers. Use 1 in Havertz to Jota. Should I bring in Foden or roll for next week? Have Duffy on bench to cover. Honestly, in your situation, I'd probably hold because if Foden starts, you're in a good position, and if not, Duffy's decent bench cover, and then you have 2 free transfers next week. So honestly, Aban, I would honestly just hold. Play Antonio or bring in Alonso. Yeah, I answered this already, Cole, and I said I'd play Antonio. No, I wasn't offended. It was funny. Yeah, fair enough. I was just saying, you know, kind of continuing the banter. With probability of Liverpool not playing, will Foden to Bernardo be better? I'd still rather have Jota than Bernardo long term, but yeah, I think Bernardo's still a good purchase, to be honest. Yeah, where there's a problem, Eddie. Good luck all. Good luck to you as well, superstar. Jota or Smith Rowe? Definitely Jota for me. Jota, Chilwell to Alonso and Havertz to Jota, or Chilwell to Trent and Havertz to 5 million midfielder. Has to be Chilwell to Alonso and Havertz to Jota for me. Yeah, has to be that. I'm late, but just wish good luck rolling this week. Yeah, I would roll this week, but I've got 2 free transfers. I'm going to be using them. I'll let you guys know what I do. Good luck to you as well, Dark Runner, a long-time viewer of this channel. Very much appreciate you tuning in, mate. What should I do with Foden? I still have Salah, Jota, Son, Gallagher mid. That's a good midfield, to be honest. You don't have to get rid of Foden in that case. So if you do have good players on your bench to cover, even a Duffy or an Antonio or Ben White, I would honestly hold, mate. Otherwise, maybe you could get rid of Foden, but you've already got Salah, Jota, Son and Gallagher. So there's not really too many other options I'd be looking at. Maybe Bernardo Silva, perhaps. Should I get Alonso or James for Rudiger? No question about this, Murad. It's James. No doubt about it. Personally, that's what I would do. I transferred Chilwell for Reagan for a hit. I think it's worth it. Yeah, I think obviously Chilwell's going to be missing out. Reagan's going to be playing, so the hit will pay off in the end. But I just think maybe if you have enough cover on your bench, you could always save the hit and play it later on. But Yeah, I think I agree, yeah. Foden for Bernardo, yeah, I think it makes sense because, once again, Foden is an injury out. Would you start Antonio or King? I'd actually start Antonio in this case. But then again, King could do all right against Leicester, especially if Johnny Evans is out, which is likely to be fair. Start Foster or De Gea? Probably Foster in that case. Storm Arwen. Oh, Arwen. Oh, that's a Lord of the Rings name, isn't it? But yeah, Storm Arwen. Okay, thank you very much. Cancelled I'm a Celeb show as well. Wow, I didn't know that. Thank you very much for that piece of information. Before you go, what are cheap, good defender options? Cheap defender options. Okay, let's actually go through them. So I think Lamdi right off the bat is a good one. Ben White is still good. So wait, this is going to be sorted out by selected by. Let's just sort out by total points. So cheap defenders, I think Rico Henry if you're looking for a kind of attacking fullback from a cheap price, but I probably wouldn't go for him myself. I think Tyreek Mitchell could be decent. Cheap defender, the same goes for Gay. It's not the meme by the way that I'm doing. I would say 8 Nuri, but the problem is that the fixtures after the next two are really poor. So that's the problem I have there. Yeah, when you say cheap, I mean, I do like Cash, but he's kind of around the 5 million mark, so he's kind of competing against Emerson Real and Reagan, so not really there. Target is a bit cheaper, so you could maybe consider him. He created a lot of big chances actually the other day under Steven Gerrard, so he's someone you could actually think about. Other than that, Livermento's still a good option, just the fixtures aren't really there, so I can see why some people aren't really too keen on him. Tomiyasu's decent. Tavares is not really someone I'd consider because Tierney should be back into the starting 11, if not this week, then very soon. But yeah, those are the sort of options I would talk about. Lamdi is probably the standout at the moment, so that is what I would go for. That's the main guy, and I've mentioned a few others, and if there's any more, let me know in the live chat, and also let him know, so he's got kind of a different perspective on it. Chilwell to Alonso or save the transfer and play Hwang? I'd save the transfer and play Hwang, Harry, and then next week get in Alonso. Rudiger to James. If you have a spare transfer, mate, I would do it. I think it is worth the upgrade, but Rudiger, of course, is a good option regardless. Make a hit and get Jota plus James in for Son and Christensen. Once again, I think Son will come good, mate, but I think overall, Jota and James is just so good. Honestly, right now, if you can afford it, just do Christensen to James for free. And then next week, mate, well, then again, Son is playing Norwich next week, isn't he? Or in the coming weeks. He's playing Brentford next week and then Norwich. Tough one. I would honestly just focus on Christensen to James right now and then maybe bring in Jota in the weeks to come. But I would probably try to keep Son over the next 3. Can we start to consider Man United assets now that Ranić's on board? Yes, and I talked about this, even without Ranić, they've got good options like Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo. You can check out my preview. I talk about this in a bit more detail than I have today. And I think that they have some promising assets. I think the defenders I'm still not too sure about, but if Luke Shaw does play, he could be a good one. And the reason why I say that is because actually last year, Ranić actually stated that he's not sure. He talked about Man United and Luke Shaw. He's not actually sure about Shaw being good enough for Manchester United. But Luke Shaw could be the choice in defence. Then you look at the midfield, Jadon Sancho. But of course, we're mainly looking at Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo. I think that they're going to do well now with him. Start Foden. I think if you keep him, I would start him, yeah. Worth sticking with Kane or move to Jimenez? I would stick with Kane for the next 3, Eduardinho. Jimenez is a very good player for the next 2. But after that, not really. From next week, Man United players would be a good pick due to a new manager. I agree, mate. Any tips? Sanchez, Foster, James, Trent, Cancelo, White, Livermento, Salah, Jota, Rafinha, Foden, Allen. Oh, Jesus. Oh, little break. Apologies. All right. So, Kai Havertz. Jesus. Allen is a injured out. Obviously, that's just something for you to bear in mind. I think the main thing with you is bear in mind in Game Week 14, Hwang has poor fixtures. That's when I would get rid of him for either King or Benteke. The rest looks fine for now. I don't really see a need for you to make a transfer elsewhere. If you ever have a spare transfer, you can maybe change your goalkeeper, Sanchez to Ramsdale, or even Ben White to Lamdi and do that kind of switch. I think that might be the better duo. Hwang and Jimenez or Tony and Jimenez. I answered this question already. FPL BDU. I would go for Tony and Jimenez. Should I take a -4 for Cancelo? It depends who you get rid of, but I probably would do that, yeah. Your squad is too much like most squads. This is where you have to look for differences. Playing like you have no chance for top 10k. A little risk is necessary. Fair enough. That's a fair assessment. I still think it's possible. But either way, getting an Alonso, for example, is a differential. But I can see where you're coming from. Eric Dyer's a good cheap defender. Yeah, fair enough. I would just rather go for Reagan though to cover Spurs, but that is another good defender. That's a good point. Thank you very much for your advice. Follower from Algeria. Wow, big up Algeria. Another nation with an amazing unbeaten run until recently. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. Alonso or James for Chilwell? James, mate. Andrea, definitely. Just did Chilwell, Alonso and Mbumo Gallagher for a few seconds ago. Log in off now and we'll probably do Foden to Jota if the game isn't cancelled tomorrow. Thank you for the advice and have a good one. Yeah, that's the thing though. Now, because of this kind of other circumstance to think about, I might actually wait until tomorrow to finalise my transfers. Reagan in for Chilwell and thoughts on Ronaldo and Bruno Fernandes. I think that's a good move. I would rather go for James, Trent or Cancelo if you don't have them already, and then Rudiger or Alonso, and then I think Reagan, if you're looking for someone around 5 million, I'd either go for Reagan or Matty Cash, and I'd probably go for Reagan instead. And as for Bruno Fernandes and Ronaldo, I would look at them around Game Week 16 onwards, but not so much right now. And as for Sancho, I think he will start to pick up now. He's been looking pretty decent recently. He made those Shaw comments pre-second half of the season and Euros, so I think Shaw will stay. Yeah, fair enough, yeah. And either way, I don't see him just benching Shaw, to be honest. I just kind of wanted to make that kind of known. Foden to Bernardo Silva or Foden to Gallagher? Long term, it has to be Gallagher, but right now, I would rather have Bernardo Silva, to be honest. Okay. Best vice-captain, Son, Tony, Rafinha, Diaz, Mbumo, Saka or Alonso, Rudiger? I would probably say Son, yeah. Sanchez, Alonso, James, Trent, Rafinha, Son, Salah, Cornet, Smith Rowe, Wilson, Kane, thoughts? It's a good team this week. Yeah, I think it's pretty decent, to be honest. Not really much else to say. Just bear in mind, Wilson could be suspended if he gets one more yellow. Love your content, mate. Do you know much about Ralph Rangnick? If not, you should totally read about him. A great personality manager and a better director of football. I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about him, but I have heard about him before he got appointed to Manchester United. I know a bit about him. I know he influenced Jurgen Klopp, Thomas Tuchel. Apparently, he actually was the one who convinced Thomas Tuchel after his playing career to become a manager. How things could have changed really for Chelsea and everyone involved really. But yeah, I know he's kind of the face of the Gegenpress. He influenced Jurgen Klopp, of course, and I think he could actually be a good short-term appointment. And as a director of football or just being in the board of Manchester United, he could be a very good appointment long-term. I did Vardy for Kane last week. Are you holding out for Lukaku or something else? I'm just going to hold. I don't really see a need to do Vardy to Kane this week. I think Vardy could outscore him. And it's not necessarily holding out for Lukaku. I've also got other fires to put out. But yeah, I am thinking of getting either Kane, Lukaku or Ronaldo in. Duffy to Die or Azpilicueta to Alonso? I would say Azpilicueta to Alonso, mate. Who do you prioritise, Alonso or James? James. I've said this all day. Definitely James. Don't listen to the negativity. You're doing a great job in helping so many people. No, if you're on about the comment earlier about my team, I mean, it is a fair assessment, to be honest. And in terms of negativity, I mean, the positivity, I'd say, far outweighs negativity. But in terms of negativity, you always want to kind of take the constructive criticism buried deep inside it and then try to improve yourself. But in terms of, pure hatred and negativity, I don't really try to let that affect me. But yeah, thank you very much for your kind words. Benteke in this week. I think if you're looking for a budget striker, it has to be Benteke. And in 3 game weeks time, if you're looking for a budget striker, it has to be Joshua King. So I think, yeah, he's a good option. Do I prefer Gallagher? Yes, I do. But Benteke is a good option. Do I take a hit next week for Cancelo or just get Alonso in? I'd get Cancelo in, mate. If you don't have Cancelo, Andrea, I would look to get Cancelo, even if it's for a hit. I have Salah and Mbumo, Son. I want to buy Foden. I wouldn't buy him Foden because he's a doubt to play this week, and he is facing West Ham, so I wouldn't do that. So you are confident that Foden will be a better pick in the long term than Bernardo Silva, considering playing time, etc. I'm not saying I'm completely convinced, but I don't think Bernardo Silva is suddenly just far better because he's getting the points and Foden isn't. If you look at them statistically, they're very similar. Foden has played fewer games. I think they're both great options. I would rather go for Foden if he is fit. But yeah, of course, if Foden is out this week, Bernardo Silva is clearly the better option to have right now. I have Dyer on the bench. I wouldn't be too concerned about that, but I think last season they did keep a clean sheet at Turf Moor, so just kind of bear in mind. Advice appreciated, love content. Follower from South Africa. Wow, big up South Africa. People from all over the world here. Very much appreciated. Bro, it's been almost 3 hours. Respect for the grind. Yeah, I haven't even noticed, I'll be honest. I've just been enjoying this, to be honest. Hot backed on the stream after having to jump off to eat, but the fact that you're still streaming and answering questions, honestly, thank you very much, Mickey. Guys, like and subscribe. As he says, like and subscribe if you enjoy this content or if you found it useful. And yeah, I'm going to be eating very soon as well. But yeah, thank you very much, Mickey. Any tips? Sanchez, Foster, Cancelo, Rudiger, Trent, Salah, Silva, Smith Rowe, Rafinha, Gallagher, Tony Vardy. On the bench, Antonio Duffy. In terms of, I don't really think... Yeah, Thiago Silva. Bernardo Silva you have. Yeah, that's fine. You've got a good defence. If you can, Rudiger to James is something I would look to do, mate. Other than that, good goalkeepers. You could maybe get Ramsdale for Sanchez if you have a spare free transfer. Other than that, the rest looks pretty good for now. Game week 16, you can get rid of Rafinha, and Tony is someone you could get rid of in a few game weeks' time. And you actually have the luxury, if you have a spare free transfer, you can do Antonio to Jimenez for 2 game weeks and then maybe move him on to a Benteke or to a King. So hopefully you've got some of those suggestions. Rafinha to Jota for a -4 and been enjoying the stream today. Keep it up. Thank you, Elliot. And unfortunately, I will be wrapping up soon. I'm trying to get through as many questions as possible. Fair enough. I can see why he did that hit, but I think Rafinha is a good hold for the next 3. Fair, I never bought Vardy in when it's a party. I did, but 2 years ago. This year, I brought him in and he's just been blanking. How did your UCL Fantasy Week go? Someone asked me this earlier. I did pretty poorly. I went from 567 in the world to around, 1 or 2k. The comment about your team is pure rubbish, to be honest. Pick the team you think will get the most points. Template is almost always template for a reason. Fair enough. I mean, I've seen some people with similar teams to me who have boosted up the ranks in just a matter of weeks because of someone like Chilwell or James. That could be a differential in itself, but that becomes the template in a few weeks' time. But I think getting in early on certain assets, so for example Spurs now, having a double up there, that could be an early call, maybe for Ronaldo or Bruno before Game Week 16. So I can kind of get what you're saying, but I can also agree with what you are talking about there. I think ultimately you want to get the team that you think are going to get the most points and not just chase differentials. And I said this earlier with the person who was around 2 million in the world. You're not going to just be catching up and getting a really good rank by captaining other people other than Salah, because that could also increase the gap between where you are now to the top 10k or top 100, etc. I've taken out Ronaldo, Williams, Allen and Chilwell for King, Alonso, Trent and Jota for a -8. Good move. That's a big hit, a lot of transfers, but to be honest, I like those moves. I think ultimately you are improving your team a lot, Irish Maverick. I think that's good. I think that's good, yeah. Obviously, you don't need my seal of approval, but I think that's good. Son or Vardy? I think over the next 4, I'd actually rather have Vardy, but Son is a good move as well. Ronaldo out? Probably, yeah. I'd look to get maybe Kane for the next 3 or so fixtures and then get Ronaldo back in later. Are you considering taking in Benteke? Because I have other fires to put out, not necessarily, but if I was looking to get rid of Antonio, it would be either for Jimenez for 2 game weeks, Benteke, or for Joshua King in 3 game weeks' time. Have subscribed, enjoyed your views. Thank you very much, mate. And same to everyone else who subscribed today and also send in the super chats and become differentials like Kenny and the Galactic Hobbit. Very much appreciated. When are you going to get out Vardy? Probably game week 17 when the fixtures turn, mate. And what do you think you would do with the money then? I would probably look to find a way to get either Bruno Fernandes in midfield or Cristiano Ronaldo up front. If not, it could be Lukaku or Kane. But I probably would look to upgrade, if anything. Do I take a -8 point hit to get Cancelo in this week? Probably just take the -4 or make the free transfer next week, Andrea, rather than taking a -8 this week for Cancelo, who is facing West Ham after all. Not an easy fixture. Son plus Livermento to Jota and James in Game Week 16. I think that looks really good, Vivan. I would do that. Yeah, definitely. No doubt about it. Alonso or James? I want to buy one of them. Obviously, Alonso's a good option, but for me, it's James. It has to be James. Jimenez or Benteke? For the next 2, Adam, definitely Jimenez. Long term, I'd have to say Benteke because of the fixtures. But if you have that luxury, get Jimenez in now and then get Benteke or King in 2 or 3 game weeks' time. Start in Boomer or Antonio? I would start in Boomer, mate, Liam. Bernardo in for Foden. I think that's a good move because Foden is an injured out, but otherwise I would be tempted to hold Foden. It's just a shame that he is an injured out. Thank you very much to everyone who's been tuning in. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. We've been going on for nearly 3 hours, and to be honest, I've just been enjoying it a lot. So obviously a big thank you and shout out to everyone. If you haven't already, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Dylan_RCM. It's the same as my YouTube handle. You can also join the Discord server. The link is in the description below. And you can also subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and then be pretty much just updated to any kind of posts I post. Kind of obvious there. But yeah, you can also interact with the channel that way. And if you become a member, you can also have direct influence on this channel and on the live streams and in terms of the timing, etc. And you can also have direct communication with me through the Discord server and also on Twitter and Instagram. But thank you very much to everyone who's been tuning in. And I'll definitely be taking a break with my voice. And maybe there'll be a stream tomorrow for the reaction stream. And then a quick turnaround on the Tuesday. There's going to be another deadline stream. So Going to be preparing for that as well as the other videos. Good luck in Game Week 13 and of course with the rest of the season, and enjoy this festive period. Hopefully we get a lot of green arrows here and enjoy the football. And if you have any questions or comments that I haven't answered, leave them in the comment section below and I'll try to answer them before the deadline. All the very best of luck again. Best of wishes as well, and I'll see you next time.